Awesome. We're live on Instagram. As promised, I said I might come back tonight. So I'm just going on a whim just because I've been doing part 2 of the book all day. And my brain is kind of fried because I have to email everything from my phone and then download it to my computer and then upload it to Microsoft Word, and it's just, I've been staring at that all day. So I thought, you know what, I'll go live and come over here to all the people that were asking questions last night. And I know there was one question that kind of probably I seemed a little snappy at, and I apologize. But my frustration at this point is because we clearly have a blueprint to what's going on right now, and there should be absolutely nobody anywhere across the board, no matter who you are, should be sharing propaganda or fake news. Nobody. There's no excuses at this point, especially on Instagram, where people, I don't know, maybe personally, but I've been on some podcasts, and there are people of podcasts I've been on who are still sharing propaganda, nonsense, garbage, and trash, and surface level stuff that anybody could share when there's a clear blueprint. And I put a post up on my pages where I can post and just put comments up. You know, if you really think about me and what I talk about, those that know me especially, and you've been an avid follower, and I don't even like calling it or labeling it that. I'm just a retired United States veteran who is serving beyond my service and keeping an oath, but also delivering you receipts via .gov and .mil sites that every single one of you can tangibly put your hands on and go read and see that it is most certainly there if you have the initiative. You know, knowledge is not power, it's the application of knowledge that's power. And a lot of people at this point are choosing to remain lazy and choosing to be incognizant, and especially a lot of those on Instagram that I know. And all they're doing is misleading people with the same thing that President Trump, the very man they claim to support, they're misleading them with the same thing that he hates the most, which is fake news. So if you want to do your part, you want to be a part of this, then you need to listen to military personnel, and it ain't many of us, but you need to listen to the ones. If you've ever heard, like 2 Peter 2 verse 21, I'm not a preacher, but even the Bible says it's better not to know than it is to know and walk away knowing. And I'm paraphrasing. You can go look up the verse. I'm not here to preach to you. But when the absolute almighty word of God tells you it's better for you not to know than it is for you to know and walk away knowing and still do the polar opposite. So every single podcaster or anybody that follows me on Instagram, why are you following me? Why are you following? And why are you misleading innocent Americans with propaganda, the very thing the man you claim to support? Why are you doing that? It makes no sense whatsoever. Why? You have a lot of explaining to do because you're misleading innocent Americans with a bunch of trash and garbage that is all surface level. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of space. It's a waste of energy when you could have been filling them. And it don't matter how they react and how they respond. That's the whole point. That is the whole point. So it makes you look like a sissy and a wussy because you can't handle resistance when, hey, the truth is the truth no matter what. Now, I don't like the word truth and I don't like the word fact because those words have been misconstrued and butchered for many, many years. So what you got to do is do what? Hey, here's how the law works. Here's how orders work. Here's the visuals of them right there. And you have it daily, weekly, and monthly. And it don't matter how dumb people look, ignorant they look, what their comments look like, how atrocious they are, if they cuss you, if they cuss your mama, if they want to kick your damn dog. It don't matter what they look like. They're the reason why it looks the way it does. And we're at a place and moment in history where it don't matter what they say. Let them cuss you. Let them show their face. Let them display their ignorance. Let them display their comments. Let them display it. Because there's nothing they can do to stop it. That dash ain't going away. That dash came out April 2023. And so many people are not making this applicable to brains. That dash ain't going away. And it was put out, once again, April 2023. So do your freaking Alabama hillbilly math. It's not Common Core math. It's not, oh, Billy had 2 apples, and Susie came in and gave 10 more, and then Tommy came in and took 7 away, and da-da-da-da-da. No, it's freaking Alabama hillbilly freaking math. It's not difficult. And all you people out there, all you're doing is misleading innocent Americans when you need to stand the you-know-what down and let people who know what's going on lead the way. There is a time and a place in history where no, you don't need to be a part of it if all you're going to do is mislead people, piss them off, make them angry, make them bitter, make them upset, make them scared, and all the other stuff. Just because you want likes and clicks. Because a lot of these people on Instagram, you know what they have? They have tits and they have a face. And all they want are clicks and all they want are likes. That's all it is. And I'm not going to refrain from it. And it's getting old and it's getting tiring because they don't have an oath to keep. And we're talking about men and women who took the fall for this nation, who can't speak anymore. All you're doing is taking a giant shit on their grave when you keep sharing propaganda and when you keep misleading innocent Americans, when there is most certainly a blueprint going on that you can tangibly put your hands on and put your brains and IQs on. And if your brain and IQ can't handle it, then you probably need to get off the ship. Man, it's getting old. It's all day long on Instagram. And I see them and I know who they are. But the moment that I say, don't follow these people and don't do this, and that's what people do, it becomes drama. And it's not supposed to be drama-based. This is a military operation going on. Most certainly is. It don't matter what anybody else says. It don't matter what one damn general says. I'm getting sick and tired of that too. People falling for titles and entitlement. There are 4,600 plus retired generals, probably more than that at this point in history. But the last count that they put out on the internet that you can look, it's 4,600 retired generals. President Trump has over 800 backing him. All right, one general don't make or break the whole charade. It just don't work that way. When there are laws and orders in place, that is a clear blueprint that can be laid out via laws and orders current, that you can visually look at every single day and go, that's what that is, that's what that is, that's what that is, this is what this is what that is. And people like me, I don't give a damn. I don't give a flying monkey ass damn about what people think about me. Because at the end of the day, that's what got us here. That's what got us here. And this is atrocious. We are not to look the way we are right now. This whole operation was put into place. That is a parameter. If you look at that as a fence, now it's not going to end right here necessarily like that, the way I'm talking. But if you just for a moment put a fence right there, that is a parameter. That is a defined operation. It's a playground. But not the kind of playground that's fun. It was going to be difficult and treacherous, no doubt. But there is a definitive blueprint in place. I wouldn't have a #1 bestseller on Amazon right now if it wasn't. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate in one way that we had to put it in a book in another manner. Because it wasn't about writing a book and it wasn't about all the other stuff. I wrote the documents from 2017 to 2021. And they're still available. The documents.info. And people go, well, why you? Why are you the only one? Why are you the golden pony? Why are you the golden ticket? Why you? Why you, young man? Why are you? And I've heard all the other stuff. Well, why not you? Where the hell have you been? Why not you then? Well, why not you? How about let's flip that around? Why not you? Why wasn't it you? Where are you? Where have you been? What were you looking at? What have you been up to? Why is it me? Why was it me? So you can why all you want, and you can flip it around, but I can flip it right back on you. So why wasn't it you? Where have you been? And we have podcasters to this day, quote unquote, with thousands and thousands of followers, and all they're doing is misleading people. Misleading people. Some are jealous because it wasn't them. Some are jealous because they don't have the IQ and the capability to house all of it. Some of them are just incognizant themselves. Some of them are good people, but they want to be a part, but they're doing it the wrong way. There's all kinds of layers out there. And people wonder why we look the way we look. People wonder why it looks this way. People wonder, well, why? Well, if President Trump is still the president, why would it look this way? Because you act like Chicken Little. That's why. And your brain acts like chicken shit. So, I mean, what else do you expect? Do you want me to beat around the bush, or you want to hear the truth? Which one is it? Because there is most certainly a blueprint. There is most certainly a blueprint. So you can either, it's a one or two options. You either want to know what's going on by laws and orders of the role of the president, the executive branch, the chief executive officer of the executive branch, to enforce the laws, which means Congress, the legislators of the law, who writes and passes the law, executive branch enforces the law, and the judicial branch interprets the law. Woo! So difficult, I know. No, the laws have not been enforced all these years before 2016. That is why it looks the way it looks. And it's actually genius what's going on. So you have one or two options. You could either know that this dash on his ball cap came out April 2023 and seek to understand what that is, which is a blueprint. It is a military operation. It's special operations, clandestine operations, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, which was going to be naked to the normal eye because most of you never heard of this stuff. You don't even know how it operates and functions, and it is a lot of material. Or option two is you keep looking like a fool and you keep following propaganda and you keep following all the negative and all the drama and all the stuff that President Trump calls fake news. And he has to play a role right now. So a lot of people are getting caught up in the role that he has to play, which is to keep civil rest, to keep civil peace. So he has to speak two different ways. And every time he speaks, he's saying two different things out of his mouth in a good way. He's speaking to normal people who we call sheep because they just have no clue about laws and orders and the role of the president and how the legislation works and how the three branches of government work and how law works and how orders are enforced. They don't know anything about that. And then there's the people that he speaks to where he speaks in code and he says code words all the time, but not just code. He says all kinds of different things that are acronyms that either go to sec.gov or go to one of his laws and orders invoked that has a national emergency invoked in it. There's two different things he does. So you can either hop on board with that and get on board, which we're 2 weeks away now from the different phase of operation in the first place. So we're on the home stretch now. But it's still going to be part of history, the dash. So you still should want to know the dash moving into the new phases and moving into the 47. You should still want to know that, where you can be a part of history the correct way, but also be a part of future history as we move through that, where you will be informed and educated on how our nation is supposed to function and operate and remove all the negativity, remove all the propaganda, remove all the drama, and get rid of all those people in your life, because you hold that power. You are the one who keeps people in their place, especially in the world of internet right now. My God, there's a video that goes viral every single day. Now, it's good when it's good, because you wouldn't have had me. I went viral August 24, 2022, but I went viral with a video that was an hour and a half long. For Facebook, that is very, very rare, and it's impeccable in another way because of the short attention spans that society has put on everybody. So when you think about an hour and a half video that went globally viral, and now my videos to this day on Facebook will be 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours long, layering all this stuff, and they'll get 100, 150,000 views. That's pretty impeccable considering the short attention span. So there are a lot of great people out there who are trying. I'm not here knocking people who are trying. But the military mentality is no man left behind. So that's how I operate and function. So every time I'm on a camera, I speak to people as if they've never heard me before. Because that's what we're supposed to do. No man left behind. And it don't matter how much they kick you, cuss you, ridicule you, mock you, laugh at you, all the other things, that's what we're supposed to do. Because somebody else has gone through that too. And somebody else also went through that 2,000 years ago. So, there is truth. There is absolute truth, and there's absolute facts. And you can know them if you'll remove your emotions, and if you'll remove your opinions, and if you'll remove all that stuff, because the military don't work like that. Military don't work on your emotions. It don't work on your feelings. It don't work on your opinions. It don't work that way. And that right there is defined to the T. Just down to the finest minuscule measure to the T of a military operation. Through military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, and paired with executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and bipartisan federal legislation. All in place right now. So, anytime someone's sharing propaganda, or they're sharing Joe Biden in present tense, and they're sharing Joe Biden period, and they're showing Kamala period, President Trump, Don Jr., Laura, Ivanka, all of them, they have to do certain things because they're a part of the operation. They knew what this dash was going to be long before this dash came out. But anybody else, and there are a few who are under NDAs, Dan Scavino, different people who are under NDAs. They know what's going on. But there's a lot of people who have blue checks and red checks who are not under NDAs. This is all public information. And moving into the future, this whole operation was to get rid of all kinds of fake news, propaganda, drama, garbage, and trash that are all on the surface. And then you'll have people in the comment box, like right now on Instagram, who will say, well, just tell us what happens next. No, you're along for the ride, Cupcake. That's how that works. That's how that works. Why don't you educate your butt right now on what's going on and what's taking place? See, that's what's wrong with America right there. Everybody wants to know what's next. It's always what's next. I worked with a big hit artist a long time ago, long before I had Billboard hits, and that's what they said. I won't say their name, but you know this person very well. Big hit artist. Massive. And he said that. He said, people don't care about your number one hit right now on the radio. They always want to ask, what's next? And sometimes you just don't know. But sometimes you do. But look what people do. Well, I'm telling you right now, now's not the time to rile me up. Now's not the time to rile me up. We look the way we look because we have incognizant, lazy Americans. all want to be spoon-fed. And guess what happened? Guess what happened with the spoon-fed people? We have Congress. The Congress from 2016 all the way back to 1871 is why we look the way we look. Because Americans, like the bird in the nest, that's what Americans do. Just tell me, oh, that's Congress's job. That's what they get paid to do. Oh, it'll just work itself out. I've heard that my whole life. I've heard that from older people too. It just works itself out. That's Congress's job. That's what they get paid to do. Well, how do you think that's working? Did it just work itself out? Did it work itself out? Or is that why we're here right now? Did it work itself out? Answer. Whoever the cupcake was that wanted to know what's next, how about you answer in the comment box? How's that working for you? How did that work for you? Did it just work itself out? Or did people lose their lives for it? Explain that. See, that's what you keep doing. That's why I get riled up. It's because there's people laying in memorial graves all across this country for cupcake asses like you who don't want to know what happens right now and what has been taking place to get us here right now. You all want to be spoon-fed. You all want a silver platter. And here it is. Well, you know, hotshot, how about you fix it? Well, don't worry. They are doing that where you'll benefit from it in the future. And you can go right on about your way, once again, not knowing all the sacrifices that men and women made for you to get on here in a free nation to watch that's what America's all about. And it's an atrocity and a disgrace to every single memorial grave across this land to have that same incognizant attitude get on here. It's unbelievable, man. It really is. It's unbelievable. We are at October 22nd. We are 2 weeks away. And here we are. We have people all over Instagram who have heard me before, podcasters, and they're still spreading crap and all kinds of nonsense and all kinds of garbage and misleading thousands of Americans. Whoo, I'll tell you, boy. But I know one thing. Cream always rises to the top, and God knows who the fighters are. God knows who they are. And a lot of you with your attitudes, you may just be susceptible to something that happens. Because you don't want to listen to people. I'm telling you, you better start listening to people. Our founders started a war for taxation without representation and freedom of religion. That were their two main components. They got all the way over here, and the king was still across the big pond, as we call it. The king was trying to rule them over here, and they're like, why the heck did we just go across that to get here, to get ruled by that over here? So, they threw a war. There's a Boston Tea Party. And see, this is what Americans act like that is so far-fetched, which was not that long ago. And that's the whole part of being an American, is you buy into our history. You buy into our way of life. It has nothing to do with where you're from and what you look like and all that. Now, it's better when you're born here, and it's better when your family like mine has been here since the beginning. And I'm also Native American, but I also trace back to the Mayflower, and even before then. But still, it's better, but it don't mean anything. If you don't act the way you're supposed to act, and you don't respect and love your history, you're in trouble. And that's where we are right now. And it's already bad that liberals have no idea. They all quote the word Constitution, can't quote from the Constitution if their life depended on it. They don't know anything about the Declaration of Independence. They don't know that the Constitution only had a shot because of the Revolutionary War and because of the Declaration of Independence and because of those founders. They have no clue that the Constitution is just a framework to keep Congress in check. Well, how do you keep Congress in check? How do we the people keep Congress in check if we the people don't know a clue and don't know anything about the Constitution? Now that makes a lot of sense, don't it? So our founders start a war, right? The Midnight Riders, which is what I named my book after, which there were more than one Midnight Rider. Paul Revere was the most notable, but the Midnight Rider rides again, right? He was the most notable, but there were women who were riding that night, who were yelling. So people were participating, the Midnight Riders, right? Well, I don't think people really listen to me when I tell this story. Our founders started a war before they established anything. April the 19th, the Battle of Lexington and Concord, boom. So do your math. April 19th, 1775, April, May, June. June the 14th, 1775, the Army was established. June the 30th, 1775, the very first military law, what they call war articles back then, 16 days after the Army. Do your math. Do your math. The law, military law, came long before the Declaration of Independence and long before the first Constitution, Articles of Confederation, and long before the Constitution, military law. October the 13th, the Navy, Continental Navy. November the 10th, the United States Marine Corps, Continental Marine Corps. All right, then you had the first flag, December the 3rd, 1775, the Grand Union flag. July the 4th, 1776. June 14th, 1777, 2 years on the Army's birthday, the flag, the Betsy Ross flag, was sworn into Congress. 51 days later, that flag flew at the bloodiest battle of the Revolutionary War. November the 15th, 1777, the Articles of Confederation. September the 17th, 1787, the Constitution. December the 15th, 1791, the Bill of Rights. 1803, Marlborough versus Madison. 1807, the Insurrection Act. 1812, the British revolted and we whooped their ass again. Only lasted 2 years that time, to 1814. From 1814 to 1871, America was so busy with the gold rush, Texas, the Alamo, the Texas Revolution. 1868 is when it really started to slide. The 14th Amendment was atrocious. 1871, Organic Act of 1871, Ulysses S. Grant, he went bankrupt in his personal life. They blame it on that, but he actually bankrupted America. We borrowed money from the crown, never paid it back, went back under the crown. In the 1870s, the bar was established. All the bars across the U.S., not the kind that y'all go to on Friday and Saturday nights. British Accreditation Registry, all the lawyers started having to go up under the British Accreditation Registry. That was abolished. The Organic Act of 1871 was abolished in 1874, but then another Organic Act of 1878 was signed. 1913, the Federal Reserve. 1914, World War I. They didn't waste no time. 1918, my great-grandmother passed away during the first big pandemic. She was a caregiver. My grandpa was 6 years old, which changed his life forever because his stepmother was not too kind to he and his brothers. 1929, the stock market crashed. Then all of a sudden in the 1930s, the Great Depression, and then after that you had all these programs that were offered to all the people, and people went hook, line, and sinker for them. They knew what was going on. You had a brigadier general. He wasn't a brigadier at the time, but he ended his career as a brigadier general. You had a one-star general now who was one of the most famous actors of all time, who played in a movie in 1938, who was trying to tell Americans way back in 1938 what's going on in D.C., with the movie Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. This ain't new. This battle's been going on a while. James Stewart, Jimmy Stewart, whom my father, 82 years old, Air Force veteran, got to serve around. Jimmy Stewart, James Stewart. 1938, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, trying to show you a congressman, and he would read one bill like I do. I'll get a bill and I'll read it, or an act, or a law, or an order, or whatever it is, and I'll read the whole thing. Well, the movie was about him reading it, and all the older congressmen and women, which was mainly men then, it wasn't even any women. Sorry, ladies. But that's probably part of the problem, right? But, because men don't want to read, men don't like to read, men don't have the capability to multitask as great as ladies do. Am I right? Am I right? I'm right. All right? Because 85% of the demographic that follows me are female. And if I was wrong about any of this at this point, with 800,000 followers all around the board, guess who would not have a platform? Me. So ladies, double pat your back, give yourself a hand clap and everything else. So he would read a bill, and the older men, congressmen, would go, "Hey there, sonny boy, that's not how we do that around here. See, we put all these bills in a package together, and you may get 3 this time, and we get 2, and next time you get 3, and we get 2, but we put them in a package, we all pass them together." Then you wonder why we look the way we look. And they were telling you back in 1938. How many of you were alive in 1938? I doubt any of you were alive in 1938. And if you were, kudos to you for being on the internet, especially Instagram. So pat yourself on the back. Because if you were born in 1938 and you're on Instagram, you are hip. And your hips probably are out of place or need replacing. But kudos to you for being here if you were born in 1938 or before then. And you're on Instagram. So, 1938. You had 1941 War Powers Act. 1942 Second War Powers Act. It didn't replace the first one. It was just about land and naval usage. In the 1940s, the military seized all airports, international, municipal, county, regional airports for World War II. Guess what's going on right now? Same thing, but for good reasons. All the foreign aircraft daily, 99% of them are on National Guard bases, regional airports, municipal airports, county airports. See, that's why you got to know military first. That's why you got to know what's going on. Or you're going to look like a fool. Especially you podcasters. You look atrocious. You look atrocious. Then you had the Bretton Woods system. You had, of course, you had the puppet states, which are very important. You had a puppet state. The most important, or the most probably iconic puppet state of the 40s was from 43 to 45. It was the Second Philippine Republic. All right, they put 2 presidents in. One president, first off, they were both real men, but the one guy was down in the Philippines, and the Filipino people thought he was real. The press thought he was real, but the guy only had control of civil affairs only, by design. The actual president of the Philippines was brought to Washington, D.C., and put up under Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was our president, who served 4 terms. He was in his 4th term, 13th year when he died, which I'm about to explain, where Congress violated the Constitution shortly after. But they changed the original inauguration date from March the 4th to January the 20th in 1933. So there's that. That's where things started going downhill. All right? Really. So you had Roosevelt, and then you had this president under him. That's called capitulation, which is chapter 12 of the Law of War Manual. Capitulations. So they capitulated the military because the Philippines at that moment in time with what was going on in World War II was very important because of the proximity of Japan and everything else that was going on in the Indo-Pacific. Very important. Especially what had happened in 1941, December the 7th, 1941. This is why history is important. And you'll have people out there, they'll quote, they can quote history repeats itself, but they know nothing about history. Which is scary. When you got people who say history repeats itself and they don't know anything about history, no wonder we look the way we look. It's atrocious right now. We should not look the way we look. And I'm going to repeat that over and over. We should not look the way we look right now. Not when there's a man walking around with this ball cap with a dash, which means continuous, which means through, 45 through 47, 45 to 47. It don't say 45 comma, 45 and. So you had the military who seized all the airports, and you had the puppet states back then. Then in 1949, you had NATO's establishment. In 1950, the military law became the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ as they call it, 1950. We always had military law, but it became known as the Uniform Code of Military Justice in 1950. Well, guess what started in 1950? The Korean conflict. They don't call it the Korean War anymore. Oh boy, they're running now. They're scared now because guys like me are exposing all them, the ones that are still living. They don't want to call it a conflict now. They don't want to call it a war. So 1950 to 1953. 1955, Vietnam started. A lot of people don't even realize Vietnam started in the 50s. It didn't start in the 70s. It didn't start in the late 60s. It started in 1955. But let's back up a moment. So you know all the wars that happened in between there. If you don't, and there's a lot of conflicts that you don't even know about. There's so many conflicts that people don't even know about that our military has been involved in that they didn't make public or popular to you. That way you couldn't go, oh, what about this? That's why a lot of these podcasters, they look atrocious. And I'm not the guy that says you got to be a veteran. However, if you want to tote the news right now, you better be talking about this dash, but you better be giving credit where it's due. Because at this point, you didn't know, you did not know, you had no clue, and now at this point, you either need to stand down or start giving credit where it's due, especially to veterans that knows what's going on and knows how to lead people the correct way. Because this ain't got a thing to do with lifestyles, gay, Buddhist, atheist, whatever the heck that don't matter. Not the bigger picture. This is a bigger picture than that. So let's go back where things went awry. 1951. That's where it really went derailed. All right. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that Congress can put term limits on the president. But even if everybody in a majority said, you know what? Yeah, our founders were great men, and they established something so biblical, monumental, and historical that was so perfect. But maybe they should have put that. Even if we all agreed to that, then why didn't Congress put term limits on Congress as well? See where things really went downhill? And I don't think people are applying that. I talk about this all the time, and I still don't think people are applying that. So why would it have to look the way it looks? Why are they running a special operation? Why is it not visual to you? It's because the enemy is within. And if you don't listen to this man, which most of you don't, you claim to support a man you know nothing about, his role, his duty, his obligation on the front, just as a chief executive officer alone of the executive branch. You also know nothing about this dash, which is the military operation, military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, and also executive orders, national emergencies, and proclamations, which make him a wartime president with unique ways they pair to make him a wartime president. You look atrocious. And once again, it ain't going away. It's still there. That 47 was claimed April 2023. He's already wearing number 47 on his golf shirt on the sleeve. So you better get with the program. But especially you podcasters, I'm not backing down. And when we get over into the phase where it's more visible to all the people, I'm layering names out there. Because I didn't do this to be a podcaster. I'm serving beyond my service, and if I get a chance to work somehow in the capacity of President Trump or the military again somehow in some way, I'm doing that. I'm not, now, I'm not going to tell God what I'm not going to do, because I've done that before in my life, and that didn't work out well. But I didn't do this to be a podcaster. So people better be getting with the program, especially you podcasters out there. Y'all better be getting with the program. And you people who follow them, and they didn't know the whole time, which can lead people to comfort, peace, stability, y'all better be unfollowing some people. This whole operation was to drain the swamp. So like President Trump says, the swamp, the enemy is within. It's not overseas. He says that over and 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 over again. How can you support a man you don't even listen to? How do you love someone you don't even listen to? How can you look at a man every day who wears this and you don't even listen to him? How? I mean, I say that with I'm trying not to laugh because it's humorous as well. How do you love and support and listen, which you're actually just hearing? You're not even listening. How? How is this on him daily and you don't even know what the dash means? How? How are we 2 weeks away from the next phase of the most biblical, monumental, historical operation known to man, and we have patriots, quote unquote, who don't even know what the dash means? How? And all you're doing is crapping on this man and the sacrifice that he made, his family, and everybody that's on the team with him doing this, the generals, the world leaders, and also all the armed forces currently serving, whether they know or not, doesn't matter, because they're task-oriented. They have to be focused on what they're doing, and also every veteran, and also every memorial grave in this country. That is who you're crapping on, because you don't want to listen and don't even look at that dash. Continuous through. And it's cohesive. It's got new ball caps out. It's cohesive. So you go from 1951, Congress, boom. Now, you and I didn't have any control of that in 1951. But that's why it's imperative to listen to the man who knows, and why this whole dash was put there, and why this operation was put there, and people who know what that means by military. So you can't support who either. You cannot support the military. Though a lot of podcasters out there, I know them. Oh, I support the military. No, you don't. If you don't know what that dash means, and it's visual, and it's there for you to talk about, you cannot support the military. Because you can't separate military from military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, military traditions, and how the military pairs with executive orders, with national emergencies, and with international treaties. You cannot separate those. It cannot happen. It don't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Whew. And I care. People always say, well, why are you so passionate? Why do you care? Well, one day I'm going to get to be in a me position, an I position, and I'm going to get to tell my story, what happened in the military way back when I was in, that most people and most, even veterans, would not believe what happened and what took place. And someday I'm going to get to tell that when it's appropriate and when it doesn't look like this was about me, myself, and I, because it wasn't. You know, when I was going about my way, I had a bad ATV accident November 2021, and I was getting my life right with God and what I do, and, you know, I already had 2 Billboard hits, and I know country music is rigged. I know stuff that even if country music fans would open their freaking ears up, we could flip everything around and get back accountability, responsibility, honesty, integrity, and transparency back in everything. But even country music fans did. So I just went on like a hiatus. I went away. I started reading scriptures and books that friends were giving me that I trust throughout 2022. Then I had all the documents already written, and I'm like, how can people not see what's going on? Everybody I talked to, nobody knew what was going on. Veterans didn't know. Everybody I talked to, or they acted like they didn't care. So my relatives sat me down with an older Marine Corps veteran who at the time was 83 or 84. His people, I think, thought he was riding off to the sunset. And my relatives sat me down with him, and they wanted to hear what he had to say. It was almost as if, well, because he's 83 or 84 and a Marine Corps veteran, well, let's see what he has to say. Didn't want to believe me because, oh, well, how are you the one that knows this? But that's fine, because that's what made the story happen. So I'm sitting there with this older gentleman in a church in South Alabama. He asked the toughest questions, which were perfect. He asked every correct question a military personnel would ask, and also lawfully, and also military orders, and then everything paired. And we talked for about an hour of where he just grilled me with questions. And when I got done with that, you should have seen it. I mean, I wish they'd have been filming it to this day, because he just flexed his muscles just like this. 84, 83, whichever. Just flexed, and he went, "It's happening! It's happening!" Just like that. That loud, with the Marine Corps, all you devil dogs out there, you know what I'm talking about. All you United States Marine Corps, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He went in that old school Marine Corps voice, and he flexed his muscles. He said that after I told him that 200 generals had backed President Trump. That was an old quote-unquote conspiracy for quite a few years. That 200 generals said never again will we let happen to this country what happened under JFK. If we get a chance to take it over, we will. And guess what is repeating itself again? President Trump, about a month ago, said we're going to take it back to 2020. We're taking it back 4 years. You got to listen to the man once again. I see a lot of comments rolling in. I don't know if y'all are listening. Sometimes comments are not necessary. Are you listening? President Trump said we're going to take it back 4 years. We're going back 4 years. We're going to take it back. What happened October the 1st? Breitbart put out an article. 200 generals backing President Trump. Guess what President Trump said on the campaign trail of 2016? I have 200 generals backing me and more to come. There's your cohesive tie-in. There's the thing that made the Marine Corps veteran of 17 years flex his muscles and go, "It's happening, baby. It's happening." Then I added him at that time because I only had probably 5 people added to my documents at that time. Imagine that, only 5 people reading my documents. I added him to those. I saw him a week later, and he sat me down again, same audience, same setup, and he said, "Son, you have everything. You have everything all in an order. You have it all there." He said, "But I want you to do one thing. I want you to do one thing for me, young man. I want you to add, it's a biblical, monumental, historical operation." See, I had monumental and historical. I didn't have biblical. And I promise you, you just have to believe it. But you don't have to if you don't want to. But I'm where I am because of God anyways. But I promise you, the man said, if you add biblical on your documents and everywhere you speak, God's going to bless you. Because you have the full package. You have everything that people need to hear if they want to hear it. And I get chills to this day because, you know, all I do in my heart, and I know my heart, you don't have to know my heart if you don't want to, and you can ridicule, laugh, mock, hate, despise, be jealous. You can be whatever you want to be towards me. It ain't going to stop this dash. It ain't going to stop the mission that God put me where I'm at. But my heart is to fulfill that man's footsteps when he was in the United States Marine Corps. My grandfather in the United States Army, my great-grandfather in the United States Army Air Corps, which became the Air Force, my dad, who I still have with me, but still 82 years old, Air Force veteran, my uncle, my late uncle, who passed last year, United States Air Force, my great-uncle, who I talk about all the time, United States Marine Corps, who stormed the beaches of Normandy, earned a Purple Heart that day, was shot about 4 or 5 times and stabbed 2 or 3 times and survived. And every other great uncle I have, every one of my great uncles, just about every one of them served in the military. And I have a lot of other family that did. It's to honor them. It's to walk their walk for them because they're not a face, and a lot of them have already done that. And I'm also honoring people I serve with who can't talk. A lot of them are still in service and can't talk. That's what this dash represents. And I'm going to tell you what. The liberals out there, the liberals who think Joe is real and the ones that think Kamala's even real, boy, y'all look atrocious. Y'all are some mad hypocrites. Because guess what's happened? The special operation that's going on right now has flipped. It's flipped y'all around. And a lot of you don't realize it. A lot of these liberals don't realize what's happened to them. And it's all special operations. It's all military special operations. It's also clandestine operations, irregular warfare, unconventional warfare, guerrilla warfare, which is a lot of psychological operations. And guess what's happened? We've flipped them. All of us has flipped them. And it's perfect now because now they've shown their face. And that's why you conservatives don't want to look like that. That's why you want to get with the program. That's why you want to get with the program, because a lot of you are looking like them, but yet you're still saying, I'm a conservative, I'm a patriot, yada, yada. No, you look like them, even though you're not saying the same things they are, but you look like them in a different manner. Because when you don't know this dash of the very man that you claim to support, which is what that whole dash is about, this operation taking place, you look just as atrocious as them. So that's why if you truly are, in your heart, a conservative, a patriot, love this nation, save America, America first, if you're all of those things that this thing stands for, then you just look like them. So, like, example, the 200 Bush aides. So liberals now are all over the board saying that, oh, Kamala got 200 Bush aides and Romney and McCain and Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney. We're talking about people who the same liberals used to yell about Bush and foreign oil and foreign wars, which did claim the lives of innocent Americans, armed forces, right, for bullcrap, fake, and phony wars, right, which is atrocious. It ain't supposed to be something to laugh about. So now they're bragging about having a candidate who's not even real in the first place. It's all a puppet state. But that's already bad. Then they're supporting the very ones that put us in phony wars. See how we flipped that on them? And it's all part of a special operation which you can go look at in Special Operations Handbook. None of this stuff's secretive. So there's a few like little things, little nuggets that you can put in your life that you don't, like if you don't want to start big, there's a few little things you can start with, and if you'll read those, it'll make you want to read everything else. So people say, once again, why does it look like this? Why did it look like this? Well, if President Trump's in charge, why did he let the economy go to hell? If President Trump's in charge, why did he let this happen? If President Trump's in charge, why didn't he step in North Carolina? If President... You know what you sound like? You sound like a liberal, but just flip-flop. You sound atrocious. I don't know any other word for it. Ignorant, sad, incognizant. Those don't really do it justice. At this point, in October with 2 weeks to go, you sound and look atrocious. And if you don't want to look that way to liberals and all the people, communists, fascists, Marxists, and them, if you don't want to look that way to them and you want to look like you have some IQ and some sense about you, you probably want to seek to understand this dash. Because a lot of you claim to support the man. Once again, I'm going to beat this like a dead horse. All right? A lot of you claim to support this man. How can you support him if you don't want to understand that dash? All right, so Special Operations. If you go to Google and go to 2000, type in 2016, comma, Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide, comma, Special Operations, enter. It'll pull up a PDF. Guess what? Drum roll, .mil. I only work with .gov and .mil sites. I'll use .coms like CNN, MSNBC, and all them when I need to, but I can back it with .mil and .gov. That's your official military and your official government sites. And it's all provable. It's all there. So if you'll go to Google and pull that up and get that in your life, go to page 11 on the PDF, or page 9 if you're looking at the screen, but if you're looking at the little drop-down bar, it's got 1 to 44 on it, 44 pages. Go to page 11 on the PDF, or page 9 if you're looking at the paper. And it's got a diagram in there. All right, it's about that long, and it's a diagram. And it's got a line. Then it's got one big dotted line. It's got overt operations and clandestine operations on the bottom. And clandestine are a lot bigger. And it's got a little legend over here in the corner with red, blue, and black telling you what those are. Public component, underground component, etc. So, if you don't know anything about clandestine operations, then you go read about them. Irregular warfare, unconventional warfare. That's all you got to do is go read about those. So it depends on where you are with your knowledge or awareness on what certain words are. But it's all special operations. Unconventional warfare and irregular warfare. Which means what? It's going to be secretive as far as the missions go. But there are nuggets out there for people like me to take and go, okay, you don't know what that is, don't worry, I do, and my buddies do. So if you want to know and you want to support this man completely, then there are certain people who are called in this position. It's all public information, nothing secretive. We're not giving away anything. So it's there. So, special operations. So I'm going to run over a few nuggets that everybody who's seen me, you got to go to my pages, my official pages. My link tree is linktr period. That's where the period goes. linktr period EE /1776 nation. That's how you get all my official pages where I post this daily. I can't post it on Instagram, all right, because Instagram is too cumbersome. There are so many podcasters, there are so many posts that, man, you'll have your little IQ dancers in your head tap dancing like it ain't nobody's business. You don't need that much information. You only need a little bit that makes up this dash. So go to my other pages where you can see longer posts and posts that are of substance than they matter. But we're going to go over some stuff. I'm going to show you some stuff. 1. The biggest nugget of all that shows everything, and I normally save it for last, but I'll do it first and I'll work backwards because of some of the recent developments. But January the 20th, 2021, that's probably what put me on the map when I went viral, is because nobody was talking about the funeral service. No one was talking about all the different things that are all Army regulations. They're Army. Because the Army handles certain things, and that's not knocking all the other branches. But once again, there's certain things that the Army does that the Marine Corps doesn't do. There's certain things the Marine Corps does that the Army doesn't do. There's certain things the Navy does that the Army doesn't do. It's just certain things. It depends. So on January the 20th, 2021, the first thing right out the gate that everybody should see, this is a part of a continuity of operations. So you have a special operations going on with the military. Then you have a continuity of operations, which they call a continuity of government, going on with the government. Now, it ain't much difference in normal government and when it's in the continuity of operations. You got to go read the 8 national essential functions of a continuity of government. There's 8 of them. And it's to maintain a constitutional government. So listen to that. But what it's telling you, basically, what it don't tell you, what it doesn't read, but you just got to listen to the man that you claim to support. President Trump said in 2020, March 2020, when the mainstream media, why's the mainstream media asking him, is he a wartime president? How many people, if you walked up on the street and said, name the 3 branches of government, 68% of America can't even do that. So if you walked up to everybody and said, what's a wartime president, by definition, most people would guess, oh, it's a president who was president during war. It's certain unique laws and orders that make him a wartime president. It's a whole lot different than a president who abused their power and Congress who abused their power starting a war, which we're going to go over in a minute. There's already documents about that. There's already documents that open up that big, massive case of worms on Bush and Obama. It's already there. That's why you got to know. That's why you got a seat to know. That's why you got to know what this man's all about, what his job and role and duty and obligations are, and what made him a wartime president versus a constitutional president, which is all constitutional, but still little variances there. President Trump in 2020 said, you don't know the enemy. We do. It's within. Yes, I'm a wartime president. He said, yeah, I think I am. All right, well, there you go. But you got to know there's certain laws that go with that. And there's certain operations that go with that. So, you have to know that. And if you don't like that, then you're either a communist, a Marxist, or you're just dumb and your IQ can't handle it. It's like President Trump said the other day, we had to find out who the stupid people are and the workers. If you don't want to be stupid, then you probably want to know what the dash means. And I know people don't like the word stupid, but I'm sorry. If you act like it, you display that, then someone has to call a spade a spade. And it just is what it is. Remember that old saying, don't start no you know what and there won't be none? Don't start no crap, there won't be no crap. We won't say the other word. Don't start no crap, there won't be no crap. Well, don't act stupid and you won't be called stupid. I'm just the messenger, so shoot me all you want. That's what happens to messengers. But President Trump's the one that said we got to find out who the stupid people are and who the workers are. So do you want to be a worker or do you want to be stupid? Which one is it? If you want to be a worker, you probably want to know what that means because that's how he identifies if you're a worker or not. And the ones who don't seek to know this, but you still claim to be a conservative patriot, well then guess what that makes you? A sheep. So you can just all the way through this and just follow, just go wherever they tell you to go. Here, drink this Kool-Aid. Come on, little fella. Come on, little gal. Come on over here. Come on. If that's what you want to be, then you have those options. President Trump tells you. And then all this talk and chatter about Kamala and Joe saying President Trump will terminate the Constitution is a con for you. It's already been suspended. That's why you got to listen, but you got to know what the dash means. I feel like Jackie Chan with nunchucks. Shut. I mean, every point I make, yeah. Chuck Norris, why? The suspension clause, the writ of habeas corpus, is for rebellion or invasion of public safety. It is constitutional. That's why it's so baffling to me that so many patriots don't know what's going on, because you look dumb to liberals. Liberals already are what they are. And the left and communists and fascists and Marxists, they are what they are. They is what they is. But when you don't even know that the Constitution actually has a clause, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2, called the writ of habeas corpus, which is actually titled the suspension clause, that you can suspend the Constitution, and that's constitutional. Well, when you suspend the Constitution, boo-boos, guess what that means, boo-boos? That means military law steps in. Because there's two forms of law in this nation. Constitutional and federal. And then military. That's why the military is separate. And that's why the Supreme Court, the more liberal Supreme Court of 2016, not President Trump's Supreme Court, the more liberal in 2016, with Ginsburg and that crew, why did they go in and clarify with the Military Justice Act of 2016, why did they clarify that military laws and courts are separate from federal laws and courts? See the timing of that? See how this timeline adds up? That was May 2016. Then it was passed in the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act, which was a defense budget. Well, who took over in 2017? I mean, it's pretty simple when you know what took place and what it means. So, the suspension clause, he suspended the Constitution. We're in military law, which is military occupation. All right? So, that's why it matters. So, when you get to January the 20th, 2021, well, for people who didn't know it, especially if you learn this afterwards, it sounds like a different kind of nugget. But it wasn't. All it was a continuity of operations, January the 20th, 2021. That was a beautiful day for people who knew what was going on. But January the 20th, 2021 was just a continuity of government. They had to show you something that day to keep you going, because you were not to know all the missions going on. Now, you could have known what was going on because the dash wasn't there yet as far as a visual goes, but I already had the documents. Everything was already rolling, and you could have known had you known what matters, which is Constitution, Declaration of Independence, foundation of our nation, military laws, military orders, military regulations. You could have known. So it wasn't secretive. So January the 20th, here's what took place in the continuity of operations. Joe Biden did not receive a traditional flight into D.C. on Air Force One. Why? Why didn't he do it? Why didn't the Air Force give him a ride on Air Force One? Obama got it. Clinton got it. All your Democrat presidents got it. So why isn't the media raising hell? Why weren't liberals raising? Well, first off, liberals are so dumb. They're so dumb. Their heads so far up their asses, they could do their own colonoscopies. So that's why you don't want to look like them. All right, because that's what they look like. So liberals, yeah, they're to be expected. But where? So why didn't the left-wing media go crazy that Joe Biden didn't get a traditional flight into D.C. on Air Force One? They didn't. Because why? The media are under a wartime power. That's why you got to know wartime presidents and wartime law versus everything else. during wartime law and wartime president, there is a code. It's called 47 United States Code 606. It's actually titled War Powers of the President. The president can do what? He can control TV, radio, and internet broadcasts. Ooh, guess what they call that? The Telecommunications Act of 1996. That's why the media didn't do anything. Because they're under a continuity of operations. It don't matter what they're saying. They're supposed to rile people up during this time. Because when you go over to the special operations diagram and you read what they're supposed to be doing right now, it's perfect to a T, everything you witnessed. Everything. And how we say it down south, everything you witnessed is on this diagram. Everything. Well, however you want to pronounce it. Everything that you've witnessed from 2016 to present day is on this diagram. It's a special operation. So, boo-boo, you can get with the program right now, or you can keep looking foolish, and you can keep looking like the liberals who are performing their own colonoscopies with their heads so far up their butts. It's all right here in the diagram. That makes up the dash. So he didn't get a flight on DC. All right. Then he raised his right hand at 11:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is a violation of the 20th Amendment of the Constitution that liberals love to say the word to, but they know nothing about the actual Constitution. Because if they did, he raised his right hand at the wrong time. 11:47 a.m. The 20th Amendment says, the president's term shall end at noon. Last I checked, noon means noon everywhere across the world. Shanghai noon. My goodness, even the Chinese know Shanghai noon means noon, noon, noon. 12 o'clock, noon. It ain't changed. It ain't like, it's like everything else that ain't changed. The sky's still blue, the grass still green. The president's term shall end at noon. The successor shall then begin. And you'll still have libtards, the libtardants out there. You'll still have the low IQs out there. Well, it doesn't matter as long as he swears in on that day. What does the Constitution say? You numb nuts. You shit for brains. What does it say? The president's term shall end at noon. Do you know why a president shows up that day with a little briefcase? Is to swap the nuclear codes. Guess who has the nuclear codes? I've seen the nuclear codes. I've seen the nuclear football. I've seen the nuclear briefcase. Not long ago. I know who has it. Now, they didn't tell me I couldn't say that. And it doesn't matter. You're not getting anywhere near it. And no perpetrator is going to get anywhere near it. But I have seen the nuclear football. At Mar-a-Lago. I've seen it. In the hands of massive security. That's the one reason that the president shows up for the next president. The president's term shall end at noon. The successor shall then begin. That shall then is why ladies love men who pay attention to detail, who pay attention to words, who know terminology. Guys, shall then begin. I guess that's why every other president swore in at 12:01 to 12:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Huh. What a coincidence. I love this stuff. I love being a smart aleck sometimes, though, because it's like President Trump. He's a smart ass like nobody's business. But when you know the facts and you know what's going on and you know you're protecting people, but you also know you're helping people, then sometimes it just calls for it. Sometimes it just feels good just to be like, well, I'm sorry, boo-boo, if you just you want to curl up and cry in a little corner and, oh, Stuart Little, the Chicken Little, the world's falling on me, oh my God, help me. If that's you, guess what? I'm still going to be like, well, it sucks to suck. You might want to get up from there because we got a war to win and we ain't far from it. And guess what? We're on the home stretch, baby. And you should feel confident. And that's what I'm here to do for you, is make you confident, baby. Like, be like the Marine Corps veteran. Like, come on, baby. Flex a little bit. It's okay. It's all right. Flex. Be confident. Be happy. Be excited. Right? We've lost people, yes. But we got to honor them the right way. Because I can tell you what right now, these guys will want you flexing. These guys will want you happy. These guys and gals will want you being the right way. Because we all going to die. We all going to die somewhere. We're going to join them somewhere down there. And when you join them, the only way they're going to join you at the gate is going, hey, baby, woo, boy, you put up a fight. You gave them hell, baby. Raise a toast, whatever it is. If it's wine, if it's grape juice, if it's beer, if it's whiskey, if it's whatever. If it's orange juice, whatever it is. You want to have the right attitude when you step over the other side going, ooh, baby, I gave them everything I had and then some. I mean, you sit here and watch, even though I know that was all a show, and I'll show you how, but once again, but even that, come on, baby. If you think that was real, then act like it. If you think that fight that's the word fight, it wasn't the word fight, by the way. That was another term. So you had the raising the right hand. All right, then let's go back to military. Let's see, what else was it? All the National Guard didn't salute the quote-unquote motorcade as it goes by. We're to salute the Commander-in-Chief and a moving flag. There's one thing we always salute, is a moving flag and the Commander-in-Chief. You didn't see any National Guard doing that. So that was your first big no-no. And we're talking about thousands of National Guard. And the only person who could have put them there was Donald John Trump. The only person who could federalize the National Guard active duty and also take them out of their states and put them in a location that was first time in world history, but especially U.S. history, the first time all 50 states were in one location at one time. The only person who could have put them there was Donald John Trump. And that's who put them there. Because you were watching a continuity of operations. You weren't watching anything else. So, they didn't salute the motorcade. Then, Amazing Grace was performed. All right, that's in Army regulations. It's normally done by a bagpiper, but they didn't do things by strict regulations that day just to be a continuity of operations, but not to be, for lack of better words, but really unsacred, because it's not unsacred what they're doing. It's all an operation to show you. All right, so the Army regulations talks about it's a memorial PDF you can go read about Amazing Grace. All right, there's also to be a commissioned officer present at every cannon salute. That's Army Regulation 600-25, 2-3, cannon salutes. All right, there wasn't a commissioned officer present. The only cannons they showed all day long for Joe Biden. No commissioned officer there. They were moving around, standing around, looking around. We don't work like that in the military, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. And I'm not fat shaming, but if you think it is, then you can get over it. But they were too fat. They were out of shape, what we call can't make tape in the military. Those guys were not real soldiers whatsoever. Their jackets were not regulation jackets. All right. The uniforms were all not anything remotely close to the 3rd Infantry Regiment, which is the Army, which are mortarmen. They're not artillery. I'm actually an artillery guy. Even though even real artillery say we're not, but I was air and missile defense artillery, but we still go through artillery school. But these guys that fire the cannons they're not artillery. They're mortar men. That's just all they do, weekly, monthly, yearly. This is all they do. All right, so that's their job. And their Army, they're the 3rd Infantry Regiment, also known as the Old Guard. They're called the Presidential Salute Battery. All right, the Presidential Salute Battery was told to you that day. Guess where they were? They were at Joint Base Andrews with President Trump on his ride into the sunset. Boy, they fooled everybody. They got everybody. There was the Presidential Salute Battery with 4 cannons, 21 rounds fired. That, by definition, is a 21-gun salute. It's 4 cannons, 3 for firing, 1 for misfire. The only cannons shown all day long for Joe Biden were at Arlington National Cemetery, 3 cannons, 2 for firing, 1 for misfire, which is not a 21-gun salute. See, where everybody gets confused is this. When you hear 21 guns, you think of 21 guns or rifles. It's not. 21 guns means how many rounds are fired, how many shots are fired. There's a 21 gun salute, 19 gun salute, 17 gun salute, 15 gun salute, 13 gun salute, 11 gun salute, 7 gun salute, and a 5 gun salute. They're all odd numbers. That's where everybody gets confused. So if you go to arlingtonnationalcemetery.mil, the official Arlington site, military, the 3-volley salute, seen or heard at Arlington, rifles or cannons, is not to be confused with the 21 gun salute. The 3-volley salute is a funeral service. So the whole world witnessed Joe Biden and the monarchy have a funeral service. Because a 3 cannon at Arlington is a funeral service for a foreign dignitary. A U.S. ambassador, there's a lot of different definitions for it. Well, that was signifying the monarchy's dead. Because that's what we went back under in 1871 and 1878, was the monarchy. The British crown, the crown. So you'll hear people out there, they try to start rumors a long time ago. Derek Jonhson's saying Joe Biden's dead. I never said that. Never said that terminology. I said that by visuals and by optics that day and by the continuity of operations, they showed you a military funeral service. Joe Biden is not real. He's not a president. He didn't get anything presidential. So if I were to sit in a neutral seat and go, okay, I got a pen and I got a checklist here, and I'm going to check off the things that are presidential that a president receives. And I went back through that list and go, okay, he got traditional flight into D.C.? Nope. He had 4 cannons in the correct spot in the National Capital Region? Nope. Uniforms were not correct? Nope. The National Guard did not salute him? Nope. I mean, it's nope all the way down. And it don't matter. I don't like the word hate. So if you use the word despise, if you absolutely despise a president, but if all those checklists check off as a yes, then it's presidential. You don't have to like them. But Joe Biden has nothing in the presidential category. Nothing. There's nothing there. By military laws. That's all military laws, military regulations, military customs, and military traditions. Nothing in those categories. So you cannot support the military without knowing our military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, military traditions. And see, a way a custom works is this. I'm retired Army, and if there's someone in here that's either retired from the military or you honorably discharged with an honorable, you get a military funeral. They don't care if you're gay. They don't care if you're Buddhist. They don't care if you, whatever you believe in, aliens riding a dang donkey across, Arizona at 2 a.m. They don't care what you believe. If you honorably retired or honorably discharged, you get a military funeral service. So it has nothing to do with lifestyles and things of that nature. Has nothing. It's straight up based on honor. That's it. So if you're sitting in a neutral seat, being an honorable person, just saying, all right, let's do a checklist. Joe Biden, for the people who thinks he's real, has not received one single thing presidential whatsoever. Which goes to my next point, the SAM call sign. Today, on the flight radar, if you'll go to my other pages where I post these and look, you'll see today, they said Joe Biden was in New Hampshire for a couple hours. All right? This ain't the first time. This is just one example. But every time they've shown Air Force One, which is a VC-25 most of the time. Now, here's another thing people get tripped on. It don't matter if the president is on a glider or a crop duster or a puddle jumper. It don't matter. It's called Air Force One. But the most traditional, the most common Air Force One that they fly on is a VC-25. There's 2 of them. The tail number is 28,000 and tail number 29,000. Now, they have been known to ride a C-32 every so often. But it doesn't matter. When they're on an aircraft, it'll have a SAM call sign when the president or vice president is on there. The president's family flies with a call sign EXEC-1F. So EXEC-1F. Executive 1 Foxtrot. That's what it said. But the presidents fly with SAM call signs, which means Special Air Mission. Not one single time that they've shown Joe Biden anywhere where they said he was, or Kamala anywhere they said she is, have they flown with a SAM call sign. They've flown no call signs. The other thing that I've been doing, and I had some saved way back, but I've been doing it again today. It's just one example. I got it again earlier this week, and I got it last week. But when that aircraft is flying, due to FAA.gov regulations, there's to be no aircraft anywhere remotely close to the proximity of the president, the vice president, or the president's family. That is FAA.gov. That's Federal Aviation Regulations. I have Air Force One, the VC-25, flying over airports with active people still. They're landing civilian aircrafts while they're flying over. I have him over the ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. I have the VC-25 going over another aircraft. No way, Jose. And it don't matter, once again, you have to sit in a neutral seat. If you despise the man, even though he's not real, but if you despise any other president that's been real in the past, it does not matter how much you despise them. That's a national security risk, and it's also a regulation violation of federal aviation. You would not do that whatsoever. So the very thing they say, President Trump is a threat to national security, you wouldn't have the quote-unquote President Biden flying anywhere remotely close to any other aircraft, but especially over water, which is even more dangerous. But let's just say one of these people are flying their little Cessna and they go, oh, look, oh my gosh, that's VC-25. I hate that sorry son of a... He can't even pour piss out of a bucket correctly. Pull up and do one of those things like you saw on Independence Day. You remember the redneck that finally got his chance, and he's like, I've been waiting for you aliens. And he, you know that? What if you have one of that? So some of that's humor, but the only reason I'm doing this is because Joe Biden ain't real. Come on, people. SAM call sign. The other thing, the aircraft's flying with the SAM call sign or all Department of Defense? Well, that happened with President Trump when he federalized the reserve components to active duty way back March 27, 2020 with Executive Order 13912, where he invoked Title 10, Section 12302 with that order. All right. Then April the 30th, 2020, with Executive Order 13919, he invoked Title 10, Section 12304. He directed the Secretary of Defense equal authority to federalize the selected reserve to active duty. That's how that works. He's the only person who has federalized the National Guard Reserve components to active duty. Title 10. Now here's the other thing. You can't believe in the military if you don't believe military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, but also this. Every one of us veterans raised our right hand to Title 10, Section 502. That's the oath of enlistment. You can't believe in one portion without the other. You either believe in all of it or none of it. And if you believe in none of it, then you don't support the military. You don't support anything armed forces whatsoever. You cannot have one without the other. And if you don't believe in that, then you also don't believe in this. And you don't believe in him. Because it all attaches. So I always use Title 50 for this. So Title 10 is the president. Title 10 is Uniform Code of Military Justice. That's Title 10. All right, and it's going to be come back into another point I'm making here shortly. Title 10. Title 32 is your National Guard. It's what the governors operate with. They still have to go through a checklist with the Adjutant General and also the President, but it's still, Title 32 is your National Guard. Title 50 is your Secretary of Defense. And even though Title 50 and Title 10, they correspond with each other, there's certain slight variances, and I have an article that you can read very well. It's from a .mil site. You can go read about it. All right? The difference in Title 10 and Title 50. And it's a great read, and it shows you the slight variances. All right? But Title 50, so I'll sit in a neutral seat like I always do. I'll sit in a neutral seat for the people who are still out there who just want to be whatever, and that's fine. Because I can throw you up in the corner and go, psh, psh, psh. Sorry, you don't have to like it, but this is the facts. All right, so for the people who still think that Joe Biden's real and Joe Biden's president, and show where if you just want to go with that for the moment, okay, then watch this. December the 20th, 2019, President Trump and the Congress put in a new clause over in Title 50, Chapter 33, which is Title 50 is War and National Defense. Chapter 33 is your War Powers Act of 1973. Section 1550 was not in there until Donald Trump and the Congress put it there. It's the use of military force in support of partner forces. It's got a clause there. It says in the first 180 days and every 180 days thereafter, December the 20th, 2019, the President should report to the defense committees of the House and the Senate. All right, a report of the use of those. And it says of regular and irregular forces. There's your irregular. That one little word, irregular forces, ties into special operations, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, as it says, clandestine operations, guerrilla warfare, subterranean warfare, all the things you've never heard of in your life, most of you. That one little word in that clause ties in all that. Now, in the very bottom of that, there's an executive document. So, this is like your extra nugget, or if you're trying to convince your friends and family still, even though there shouldn't be any convincing. Once again, you either believe in military, and if you do, you got to believe in military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, military traditions. So you can't have one without the other. But if there's just that extra little nugget that you just wanted, that extra little jab, you ever watch boxing? Even when they blow the whistle, that boxer that's been whooping the butt of the other one, he might get that extra jab in there just to say, you don't want none of this. You might want to sit in that corner and think about it next time. And when you come out here, the next round, when I hit you again like I've been wearing you out, you might just want to go ahead and fall on the ground and hit that 3-second count and get out of here. Well, this is what that is. I'm about to hit you with that extra. I've already been hitting you with all the laws and the orders that you can't argue with. All right? You can't. They're there. It ain't going away. Especially if you're a conservative or a patriot. You should want to know this. So here's that extra jab. All right? Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. In the bottom of it, there's an executive document. All right? Joe Biden ran for president 3 different times in his life. I don't count this one because he's not real. But 3 different times. So you're going to tell me that this guy finally got to be president, 81 million votes, sitting in his basement in his whitey-tighties and his dependas, all right? And July the 19th, 2021, executive document here says that I hereby delegate the authority and functions vested in the president of 1550 to the Secretary of Defense. That clause is Joe Biden relinquishing his authority. Authority has an author. Listen to the word. It says, I hereby delegate, which means to, let me see someone here, Luna or Debbie or Lori. I don't want this anymore. Y'all have it. Here's the clause vested in the president of 1550, which is Donald John Trump. Here, I don't want it. That's what that's saying. I hereby delegate the authority and functions vested in 1550, which is Donald John Trump, December the 20th, 2019, to the Secretary of Defense. Well, President Trump had already put in a wartime order. See, Executive Order 13912, March 27, 2020, when he federalized 1 million reserve components active duty. That has not been revised or terminated. Still active. And Executive Order 13919 on April the 30th, 2020, where that was a direct order to the Secretary of Defense to also federalize the selected reserve. Well, guess who the Secretary of Defense is? Secretary of Defense is normally appointed by the President. This is your President. This is your Secretary of Defense. So President Trump equalized him. He's still not above the President. So if Joe Biden is giving up his authority and functions vested in the President of 1550, which is Donald John Trump, to the Secretary of Defense, but the Secretary of Defense was equalized by Donald John Trump, then who's the Secretary of Defense equal to right now? Do the Trump dance. Do the Trump dance. Do the Trump dance. Oh! Jab you right in the nose. Bow! Just jab you. Do the Trump dance. Yeah, do the Trump dance. Do the Trump dance. Do the Trump dance. That's what that's saying. And it's still there in Title 50, Chapter 33, which is the War Powers Act. Guess what the War Powers Act is of 1973? The War Powers Act. Listen to it. There's that at the very bottom. Executive documents. I hereby delegate the authority and functions vested in the President of 1550, which is Donald John Trump, the Trump dance, to the Secretary of Defense, who Donald John Trump had already given a wartime order to. You know what? Just like my late sergeant here, it sucks to suck. It just sucks to suck sometimes if you don't want to get with the program. It just sucks to suck. But for all of us that know, do the Trump dance. You can't argue with it. It's military law. It's all military. So if you support the military, remember the old song from Love and Marriage? Remember that TV show? Love and Marriage, Love and Marriage. Dun, dun. Like a horse and a carriage. Remember that? Well, it had one line in it that said, love and marriage. You can't have one without the other. Well, you can't have one without the other. All right, so Angela Merkel, President Trump says he went on this what they call a capitulation tour from 2017 to 2020. Now we have patriot podcasters out there saying that was fake. They ought to be slapped to hell and back. And I know who one of them is, and I am gonna call his name if he don't straighten his act up. I've been on the podcast 2 years ago. He's got about 50-something thousand followers. That's 50,000 people being misled and led down the drain from this fat slob who's never been in the military. Fat, you know what? He is fat. Sorry, and if that's fat shaming, then whatever. I can't handle it. This fat slob, all right, of a piece of crap human being, misleading all these people, all right, saying that the capitulation was fake. All right, this guy 2 years ago claimed to be a patriot and claimed to be a President Trump supporter. So that tells you right there they're a hypocrite. All right, they're not to be trusted. President Trump goes on a capitulation. That's when North Korea, he stepped into North Korea. Remember all throughout 2015 and 2016, oh, Donald Trump, his temperament is going to start a nuclear war. What happened? No nuclear war, not even a war at all, right? So nothing. So then you had the soccer ball, July the 16th, 2018, with President Vladimir Putin. Guess who was in Russia today? Brazil. Guess who was in Brazil today? United States. Who does old Joe say is a danger to the world? Putin. But we got a United States military aircraft in Brazil, and there was a Brazilian aircraft in Moscow today. And then in Israel, way back October the 7th to October the 14th. Remember when the war kicked off last October in Israel? Who was in Israel in that first week? Russia? With a humanitarian aid aircraft? There's a lot of people, and it's even more, like I said, atrocious, that there's a lot of patriots out there that have no clue what's going on. And they're doing this man an injustice. Now, I don't put him above God and Jesus, but he's pretty dang close up under him. You know, God uses people that you would least expect. And if you go read the Bible, a lot of these people claim to be Christians. If you go read the actual Bible, he used people he turned a lot of bad people into good people. I mean, and if we all had to stand up on Sunday or Monday, whatever day we deemed, and tell who all we flipped off during the week for pulling out in front of each other, or talking about how fat somebody is, or how much you're a slob, or their mama said this, their mama said that, their dog peed on my petunias, you know, whatever it was. If we all had to stand up and tell what, you know, would be deemed a sin, it'd be a stone throwing party all the time. Like, nobody's perfect, but we're to strive to be. We're supposed to, you know, work on certain things. We're supposed to do certain things. But, I mean, come on, people. So, President Trump, right, he gets all this hate from people who don't even know him. I'm like, first off, just because you're popular don't mean you're supposed to judge. So we got to get rid of that in the world. Just because someone's popular, look at all the people that came after me just for telling laws and orders. I had people trying to steal my federal trademark. I had people trying to lie and spread all kinds of stuff that, saying pedophilia, all this other stuff. I'm like, look at the people out there that they ain't got a leg to stand on and a pot piss in and saying this. They're too dumb to pour piss out of a number 5 wash tub. And here I am just telling laws and orders of the military, and they can't even. That's what they try to do. See, and if it happened to you, you wouldn't like it either. So you got to weather the storm and know that, you know, they're either just dumb or ignorant or both or whatever. Well, look at all the stuff that we deal with. And look at what he's gone through. I mean, I ain't remotely close to that, but I had some pretty good stuff fly at me. You just got to weather the storm. But look at what people say about Vladimir Putin. They know nothing of what's going on right now. Nothing. And he could have been someone who was bad that they flipped and made, you know, or ultimated. There's all kinds of levels of this. And people are focusing on so much of the wrong stuff that if they just focus on the things that are simple at first and seek to understand the simplicity first and then work your way up, then you might have the brain for special operations or whatever it may be. You might even find your passion and calling and you didn't even know you had it. But you can't start the wrong way. You can't tote the wrong news. You got to do it accordingly and appropriately. Because there is a blueprint. So, President Trump, capitulation. I break down the capitulation even more in other videos, but go read about what happened after the soccer ball with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, Finland. He stepped in front of the Queen. That wasn't unetiquette and all that. That was all done on purpose to show you what was coming January the 20th, 2021. The Queen, the monarchy's gone. All these things were a capitulation. And what should be your consolation or your solace or your validity or validation, whatever word you need and whatever it is when you see the validity of that. President Trump said, I gave Angela Merkel the white flag of surrender. Well, if you walked up on the street once again and go, hey, do you know what the white flag of surrender is? And I'm not talking about what you do at 3 a.m. after you just ate Taco Bell and you got to run to your toilet. I ain't talking about that white flag of surrender. All right? Oh, gosh, I wanted to watch Murder, She Wrote reruns till I fall asleep, but I got to go to the bathroom now. We ain't talking about that white flag of surrender. We're talking about the white flag of surrender. And we're not talking about Mario or Atari or Zelda and all the other stuff that people grew up on in the 80s and the 90s. All right? What's the white flag of surrender with the military? Most people won't know that, can't know that, right? Unless you do know that. So white flag of surrender is actually the white flag of truce, which is found in what chapter? Well, if you got capitulations in chapter 12 of the Law War Manual, guess what? Guess what's also in chapter 12 of the Law War Manual? The white flag of truce. Uh-oh. See how that ties in? And President Trump said, I gave Angela Merkel, who was the Chancellor of Germany. All right? Now, November the 15th, 2022, when he announced his quote-unquote presidency for 2024, right? He said a word that night. He said one, right in the middle of the economy. He was talking about the economy. And all of a sudden, he goes, what? He says, and pretty soon we're going to put a beautiful flag on the surface of Mars, right? Caught that because of military auxiliary radio system. All throughout 2021 and 2022, they advertised an emergency radio on OAN and Newsmax, all the places he was on. Well, all of a sudden, they're advertising emergency radio. Then last year, people don't forget about it, but 50 United States senators received this emergency satellite phone. All right. The other day, Elon was wearing a shirt about Mars. All right. And then President Trump said, by the end of my term, we will be in Mars. Not on Mars, in Mars. Military auxiliary radio system. Now, that's not to be scary. Military don't work on scare tactics. And I'm sick and tired of podcasters doing that too. The military don't sit around and devise a scheme that says, all right, we're going to scare the ever-living you-know-what out of these people. That ain't how the military works. Can you get scared? Yes, but you shouldn't be if you know someone like me. Because this is all part of the plan. It's a dash. And there are actual ways that you can take heed and take caution by knowing someone like me and me saying, no, I wouldn't travel right now if I were you. No, I wouldn't go there if I were you. No, I wouldn't go there if I were you. And I've had people call and text me or message me and say, hey, would you travel to this country right now? And I'm like, I wouldn't. But, you know, or whatever it may be. Or I have said, yes, I think you'll be fine this moment, but here's what you do just in case. You know, here's what you should do. But, you know, they still knew that everybody was going to be living their life. But there are some things you can take caution to. So you're not to get scared. And a lot of these podcasters and preachers, oh boy, there are a lot of preachers out there, pastors, preachers, whatever you call yourself. Some of you are not looking like you're supposed to be looking like. Some of you need to step down. Some of you need to give up your position in your churches because you look like wusses. Wusses and sissies. You don't look like what the Bible talks about. So I need to hammer that even more so a little bit more. But we'll get on that on another day. But President Trump, November the 15th, 2022, he said the Mars comment, then he said pause. We're going through what I call the pause right now. Most Americans heard that and they were, oh, well, yeah, it is a pause because, man, our economy, and man, this, and man, that, and man, nah. Pause. Public alert. Unregistered soliciting entity. It's an SEC.gov term. It ties into Executive Order 13959 with the national emergency that he declared November the 12th, 2020, but it didn't go into action until January the 11th, 2021, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is what it actually says in the Executive Order. January the 11th, 2021, 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's very, very detailed. All right. After that is when Jeff Bezos stepped down from Amazon. Bill Gates and his wife announced divorce. Warren Buffett left the Bill Gates Foundation. Mark Zuckerberg started dumping stocks, about $25 million a day. He dumped about $350 million in stocks just in 6 months' time alone. Over 2,500 CEOs stepped down during that time period in that first year. There's 3,000 pages right now on the SEC.gov. Pages, not names, 3,000 tabs, 3,000 pages of people whose assets have been frozen by that executive order. All right? So you got to know this stuff. So pause. Now that ties in with Kamala. This is how you debunk Kamala and Joe's, and this is for your validity, your solace, your consolation. Once again, your validation. So when you watched the quote-unquote the debate the other night, you didn't have to listen to all of it. You could have just to get all the nuggets because it's all a show. It's a movie you're watching. And it's also a flippage. It's also showing what you're supposed to be showing your liberal friends going, ha, you guys now support wars, foreign wars, and this, that. This is how you do it. You flip it on them. Even though it's not real, but if they just refuse to listen at the moment, you flip it on them, and then that's what gets their attention. If they have any attention, if they have any IQ. Because the other evening, she said, what? She said this. She said, I have 2 people backing me, which is pretty pathetic, but whatever. If that was real, it was pathetic. Wharton School of Finance and Goldman Sachs. This is why it pays to know military laws, military orders, military regulations, but also federal laws, legislation, acts, bills, etc. This is why it pays to get back. You, the people, need to get back to what matters. All this propaganda and all this other stuff needs to go away. You need to get back to legislation and how Congress functions and operates, because we, the people, are the government. They work for us. So they wouldn't be passing certain things if you were aware of what was going on in the past. So now, for the future, you need to get back into stuff that matters and be aware of this stuff. And then that way, they won't be passing anything because they won't have anything to pass because we, the people, won't allow it to happen. So, old Kamala, this is how you debunk it. She said this. She said Goldman Sachs. She said, Donald Trump has no plan for you. Now, what did most people do? Most Americans were going, yes, he does. Can you believe her? Can you believe, honey, why aren't you listening, honey? Did you hear that? Can you believe she just said that? Can you believe she said Donald Trump as if we've never seen Donald Trump before? Can you believe? While people in their average head was doing that, guess what? Guess what was happening? One little word. Plan. That's your root word. If you're going to dissect that sentence, plan is the root word. While everybody and all the sheep were, oh, I can't believe she just said that. Donald Trump has a plan for us. He's already showed us his plan. He's already been the president one time. He had a good economy, good gas. The food costs were down and this, that, and other. All that stuff. See, while the normal brain was going off on that and acting like a southern redneck, all you had to do was stay cool, calm, and collected. And if you knew the laws in place, you'd go, no plan. Plan. 2022, 2023, 2024. Goldman Sachs hammered by the SEC.gov Executive Order 13959, which is what that is, with the National Emergency. The SEC.gov hammers Goldman Sachs, who she just said was one of the people backing her, hammers them for not having a contingency plan in place on 163 million transactions. And that's who she's bragging about. And that's who every low IQ, ignorant, incognitive, uneducated, whoever, Yankee, redneck, Westerner, whatever you are, hole in the ground, high as a kite, top of a balloon, whatever the heck you are, that's what you didn't know. Then you can go to another website, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, JP Morgan, Chase, but Goldman Sachs, one of the main key components of the 2008 financial crisis. That's who old Kamala Ding Dong, who could be the new CEO of 23andMe because she's had all kinds of DNA pass through her mouth. That's who she was bragging about having an endorsement from. That's how dumb liberals look. That's how dumb liberals look. So, all these patriot podcasters out there who don't talk about the dash ever, misleading all these innocent Americans with propaganda, surface level junk, that's how dumb they look as well. Because this very thing can provide solace, comfort, peace, everything for every American, even if they never were conservative before, but they just love America, they want to save America. You hear preachers out there, we need to vote for the least of two evils. Get the you-know-what out of here. You need to step down. If you're a pastor and you've said that, you need to step down. Because you don't know what's going on either. No, we don't need to vote for the lesser two evils. We need America to know how America operates and functions, and that America can operate and function with all different kinds of walks of life when we have what's in place the right way. We have federal for certain things, state for certain things, local. And our lifestyles have nothing to do with any of that. We got to keep it out of that. But there's a way to live and let live and have federal, state, and local, and military, and even tribal function and operate with accountability, responsibility, transparency, honesty, and integrity without ever infringing on anybody's rights whatsoever. But we got to start talking that way. We start acting that way, living that way, thinking that way. February 2024, President Trump was in Texas. He was with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general. They showed Biden over in Brownsville that day on two C-32s with no call sign once again. It's not how it works, ladies and gentlemen. And then also, why wasn't the governor of Texas and the adjutant general with Biden if he was real? See, that one nugget, there's just a few nuggets alone that could just bring the curtains down. And I'm on those. I'm ending with 4 right now. I'm on those. But I sound like a broken horse. I mean, you know, it's like a dead horse, a broken horse, whatever. I mean, but broken record, et cetera, whatever you want to look at. You witness a rank structure right in front of you. That was a chain of command you were looking at. President Trump, Commander-in-Chief, wartime president, adjutant general, and also the governor of Texas. So you're looking at the chief executive officer of the executive branch, but he's in a wartime mode, so that means the executive branch is not what it is right now. So you're looking at a commander-in-chief, the chief executive officer of the state, and you're looking at the adjutant general. That was a rank structure. The first time that the adjutant general decides to make an appearance on world TV is with the quote-unquote former president, while the real president that people think's the real president is down in Brownsville, Texas the same day? I don't think so. That's not how the military works, ladies and gentlemen. The adjutant general, listen, Linda, listen. Remember that little video? Listen. I see a lot of comments in the comment box, but are you listening? You can't believe in the military without believing in military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, military traditions. The state of Nebraska had sent their National Guard the week before President Trump went down there. The state of Arkansas sent their National Guard the next week. That means they're federalized. The only person who can federalize the National Guard reserve components to active duty is the President of the United States of America. That's Title 10, Sections 12302, 12304, and 12406. The same Title 10 that all of us veterans raised our right hand to, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is military law. You cannot have one without the other. The only person who can federalize the National Guard active duty is the President. The only president who has federalized the National Guard active duty is Donald John Trump with Executive Order 13912 with 1 million reserve components active duty, and Executive Order 13919 where he gave the Secretary of Defense, he directed equal authority. And there you saw on February the 29th, the leap year, February 29th, 2024, not long ago, you saw a chain of command rank structure. You saw your commander-in-chief with the adjutant general and the state chief executive officer, the governor. Guess what the definition of adjutant general is? Reports to the state chief executive officer unless the National Guard have been federalized under Title 10. Now all these liberals, they call him a felon. Boy, you want to know how dumb they really look? And I mean, I wish I could use another word besides dumb, stupid, ignorant, lazy. I wish there was another word for it as far as like they could be more comforting to their little safe spaces. But sorry, I don't work that way. They call him a felon because of a civilian court. Right? So, this is how dumb they look. If President Trump was a former president, then being in Texas with the governor of Texas, the adjutant general of Texas, which is the commanding officer of all the armed forces of Texas, if President Trump was a former president, him being there with those entities, they would have all been breaking law first off, but that would have been President Trump violating his own Executive Order 13848 with the national emergency for election interference. Because a lot of people think election interference is just at the ballot box. It's not. There's all forms of election interference. When there's a sitting president, if everybody thought that Biden was a sitting president, which he's not, but if that people thought that, then President Trump has violated his own executive order with a national emergency multiple times. In Texas would have been one of them. These 2021 and 2022 rallies, there's no such thing as those rallies. There's no such thing as that. There are federal election committees, regulations, federal election regulations. There's certain times that we've appointed where a president can actual campaign and time structures and time slots for that. There's multiple cases where you could say if President Trump was a former president, he'd be in multiple violations of laws, orders, or even if it was just rules that have been established for many years. And it would be also going against, no matter how much you would despise the president, doesn't matter. You can despise someone as much as you want, but when there's rules and laws there and orders there, so it's that. And so you got to go look at that and understand that first. But when they say he's a felon based on just civilian court, that's no different than you and I going to a traffic court and someone saying, "Oh, well, you're a felon because you parked, 13 times illegally." When, let's say you're running for mayor or something in your hometown and they're trying to bar you from that. And you're like, "Well, yeah, but those without sin cast first stone." And then you could prove that, well, you can't prove that. You don't know that I had 13. You just assume that. Or whatever. You can make up any scenario. But if liberals knew what they were saying and how dumb they actually looked, that's why I love this. Because I'm like, if people would just share these videos or screen record these, but this is how dumb liberals look. Alright? You're calling President Trump a felon based off a civilian thing that can't be proven, first off. And if it was, first off, that'd be a whole different story. Right? I wouldn't sit here and take up for anybody who raped somebody, first off. But they're going on, they create these far-fetched stories that are 30, 40, 50 years ago that no one can prove. And then if you do have an alibi and you do actually have proof that where you were during that time and it debunks everything, then they still will try to twist it and turn it. Now, I know a lot of that's for show, but also in the real life, this has happened with people before, and they'll just keep going, well, but this. And it's like, no, this is what your accusations were, and I showed you where I was. These were my alibis, and then they want to just keep going with, no. We're innocent until proven guilty in this nation. And look how people do to people out there. It don't matter how guilty some people look. You would want to be the person going, hey, I was not there. I didn't do that. I have proof. Why do we in America, why does half of a population still judge a person after they've been proven innocent? Why? Why do we do that? Now, that don't mean you're going to be their buddy, their bosom buddy, and their lifelong friend. But it means you should go on with your life when someone's proven innocent. If they don't hurt or harm you or anything of that nature, you need to move on. Because if they truly are innocent and you're still hanging judgment on them, guess what you're going to do? You're going to pay for that. It don't matter if you don't know them. God's going to judge you for your thoughts and your whatever you have here. God will judge you on that. You may think, oh, I don't know them, whatnot, I can have an opinion. No, you can have an opinion. But when they go through a court process, which is bigger, and that's their life on the line, and they've been proven innocent, and you keep on with it, you're the one with the problem. And that's also destroyed this nation. That has destroyed this nation. So President Trump's already proven all these things that he's had to do throughout his presidency. He had to take time out of that because of stupid, idiot, evil people with low IQs. Because they can't beat you with laws and orders, so what do they try to do? Spread rumors and lie about you. Same thing I've gone through. And I'm like, I'm the most reclusive person in another manner. I love people, but after I blew up like I did, I've become even more reclusive. Because I hate negative publicity more than anything in the world. I hate it. And then also, I can't stand idiots and low IQ people because I do. I do want to sometimes get in a boxing ring and go, all right, you may whoop my tail, but I guarantee you one thing, you're going to know I'm in it because I'm so mad right now that you lied about me that I'm gonna put some knots on your head or something. I may bite your ear like Mike Tyson. I don't know. I might have to do something like that. That might not be fair. But if you're lying about me, it's already not fair. You know, I'm one of those. So look at President Trump on this massive he's one man, the most popular man, most powerful man in the world. Look what he had to go through. Right? So this is how dumb liberals look. Right here. This is how you can bring the curtains down on them. All right? You go to your liberal friends and say, okay, you call President Trump a felon based off a civilian court. But did you know that if he was a former president, that he's met, just this year alone, since April 2024, he has met from April to October, he's met with 7 foreign leaders, 8 different times. Mar-a-Lago, Trump Tower, and one on the phone. Do you know what they call that, libtard? They call that the Logan Act, 18 United States Code, Section 953, which is called private correspondence with a foreign leader. And then you go, hey, libtard, did you also know this? That you're what you think of as a president, which he's not. All right? He's not at all. He's not even real. All right? But since you think he is, but he's not by laws and orders either, but since you think he is, this guy that you call your president, when he was a vice president, he and the president, they called Obama, but Derek Jonhson calls him Osama, Yo Mama, Obama. But that dude, those two went after their own director of the Defense Intelligence Agency that they appointed, that the president appointed, Obama appointed. They went after their own 3-star general with the Logan Act, 18 United States Code, Section 953, and drug his whole life and name and everything, you name it, through the rains, through the roads, through the fire, through the coal, and you name it, and removed him from that, stripped him of his rank, stripped everything, right? But this guy that you call a threat to democracy, which we're not a threat to democracy, he's not a democracy in the first place. See, all this Constitution, you guys, you libtards claim that you know so well that you don't. You never quote the Constitution. All you say is the word Constitution. You know nothing about it. And then you say this man is a threat to democracy when we're not a democracy. Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution says we're a Republican form of government. Each state's to have a Republican form of government. All right, so we're not a democracy. But this guy that you claim is a threat to democracy, your democracy, what this swamp that you guys created, all this stuff that's being exposed to the people that can't be stopped now, because that's what the dash means. It's not stopped. You can't stop it. You're not going to stop it. But this guy that you claim is a threat to your democracy, that shouldn't be anywhere remotely close to laws and orders in the White House, this is what you all say. You say Donald Trump should be nowhere close to laws and orders in the White House and D.C. and Congress, etc. This guy that you claim all these things of has met 7 leaders, foreign leaders, 8 different times since April 2024 alone. And your old sack of shit that can't even walk correctly, which he's not real in the first place, but that old sack of doo-doo, old ice cream man, the golden hairy legs, all the black kids want to touch his golden hairy legs in the pool, but they're somehow brown every other time, but they're golden in the pool. However that works. What in the heck is going on with that chlorine? What's going on? I don't know. I mean, mine's never turned any other color when I've been in the pool, even with all the chlorine. So this guy that you claim is the president now, this guy said that Donald Trump's just trying to one-up me for the presidency. So you're telling me that this guy that's a threat to democracy, that's a threat to laws and orders, that don't be anywhere close to any of that stuff, you're going to allow him to stay in the race and to have a chance to win the presidency when you can invoke the 25th Amendment on him right now, and you can also invoke the Logan Act, 18 United States Code, Section 953, which 18 United States Code, by the way, you libtards who don't know shit about anything, 18 U.S. Code is what? Criminal procedures and federal law. Weird. You could actually charge President Trump, if he was a former president, with federal law, not civil, and he could actually be a felon if he was a former president by meeting 7 times, 7 leaders, 8 different times in a private correspondence, in a private establishment called Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower. And you're going to leave him in and let him have a chance to win the presidency if this is a normal 4 years? Is that what you're saying? Because that's how stupid you look, liberals. That's how stupid and dumb and incognizant and all the other terms you can tab on your foreheads. That's how dumb y'all look. That's how stupid and ignorant. And there's no other words for it. He's not a former president. And I'm telling you what right now, you better not let me ever get in office. But I better not be number 48. Because I'm going to tell you what right now. I know some good Spanish people. I know some good people who came in from all different places. I've met a lot of different people all over this nation. Immigrants. I've met them. And I ain't talking about all of us that our families were quote unquote, certain people were immigrants. I'm not talking about that. We're talking about like true what's going on, what's been. Some of them deserve to be here. And we got some libtards that need to get the hell out of here. We need to deport them. The level of IQ with some of these people and their attitudes, they're the danger. They're dangerous. And when President Trump says we got to deal with the ramifications, yes, this right here is beautiful and it's setting up a beautiful future. But there's some of these people who are low-level hanging fruit that if they don't get with the program, we got to deal with that ramification no matter how beautiful this operation is. We got to deal with them. They need out of here. They're the ones that need deported. But that's why you, the patriots, and you, the conservatives, you, the people, Save America, but especially all you podcasters, that's why you need to know what matters. Because we have to identify these people where they don't get hired in these positions, and they definitely don't get elected in these positions. That's why this matters so much. And it matters more to veterans because we know the enemy and we all know the evil, and we can identify the ones that are red. I mean, you can just, the hairline difference. You can tell when people are putting on. You can tell when they're wolves in sheep's clothing and blending in. So that's why some skills are better than others, because some of these people are very sharp. They'll blend right in and they look the part, but there's few little things that you can just tell and you go, no, because if this, you wouldn't do this. If you were this, you wouldn't say that. If you were this, you would do this. Now, there are people who have made mistakes. There are people who have said stuff about President Trump and they change. But when they do that and they flip-flop, they better walk a fine line like Johnny Cash sings about. You better walk some lines. And a lot of them are doing that. And that's fine. J.D. Vance is one of them. But still, when they say something bad about President Trump and they flip, they better walk a dang fine line from then forward. And it takes special people who knows what's going on by laws and orders, but also integrity and honesty and transparency and accountability and responsibility to be able to identify some of those little things. That's why it's important. That's why I act the way I act. Because I do know. I know what God called me for. That's why God's got me protected and shielded. He does have me. And that's why I don't act like a fool and I don't live stupid ways. Have you seen me change? Everybody who's been following me for 2.5 years now, have you seen me change? No, you haven't. I'm the same person that I was August 24, 2022. Same person. Same person. Just like the person down here said, it's discernment. It's all discernment. That's where it happened. And actions speak louder than words. Actions do. We all hold each other accountable in our relationships, our friendships, significant others. We all hold each other accountable more with actions than words. Words do mean something, but when you back it up, that's how we judge each other. So how did we let Congress do this for so many years? That's why it matters. But we got to get people educated as much as possible on our levels where this don't happen again. Because all it is a buildup. And it matters more state-wise. Well, it matters more locally and state before it does federal, because a lot of these local and state are the ones that end up there. So that's why it matters more right here. So the other thing, there's 2 more points. The storm. You know, I have people get mad about the storm. I'm like, look, it's a military operation. Sorry. When Title 10 is involved, that's telling you it's a military operation. So the storm in North Carolina, FEMA was told to stand down by the Department of Defense because of Title 10. 5,101st Airborne were sent there. When you have flooding of that nature, that means subterranean warfare. When it's the biggest flood you've ever seen since 1916 and water of that, but guess what? President Trump said that the biggest water, you bet, you can go to 2018. It was a hurricane, can't remember the name of it right off the bat, but he's already said this about multiple storms. And you got to remember and go back to 2018, he said, watch the water, watch the water. He warned everybody. He's been warning everybody, watch the water. Now, a lot of you find this hard to believe, and that's fine, but you gotta own up to it. You can go to Google, you can type in hurricane patents. There are patents that Bill Gates and others put into place. There is a way to make a hurricane more strength. Now, the hardest part to explain to people is when I say that it's a military operation, then you say, well, you saying President Trump did that in the military? Listen, Bill Gates and them have been doing it for years, and they were going to do it anyway. So how do you do that? How do you clean out subterranean? You can go read about flushing the tunnels out. You can watch me when I go on a show with Mike Jaco, who was a former Navy SEAL chief. All right. It's special operations, ladies and gentlemen. Then you can go over here to page 11, special operations again. Go over here. What happened with all these people? Look, what y'all got to realize is this. What was it going to take to get people involved the right way? What was it going to take to wake Americans up the right way, to care about things that matter again? Because when 68% of Americans cannot name the 3 branches of government, we in trouble. Because you can't talk on things that matter. You can't talk with logic. You can't talk with IQ. You can't talk with sense, whether it's common or logical sense. You can't talk with it. You just sound foolish and flagrant and all these other things. Yes, it sucks that people die. Yes, it sucks, but people die all the time. People also die in military operations, and people die in wars, and people have been dying for years. So where have you been with people dying? Why all of a sudden are you mad at a veteran trying to tell you what special operations look like? And that, look, here's what military does. Military thinks that, hey, if we can save 10 million, unfortunately we might lose 10,000. But would you rather save 10,000 and lose 10 million? Or save 10 million and lose 10,000. See, that's what a lot of you cannot separate your emotions. That's why a lot of you can't be in the military. You couldn't be in the military. You'd never be in the military. You'd never make it in the military. It's also why some of you can't make it in other fields, medical fields, and things of that nature. Because a lot of nurses that I know, they can think like that. And it's unfortunate. Do you care at the end of the day? Yes. Absolutely. Someone lost a life. But when you're in the middle of the operation and when you see the bigger picture, people are going to lose their life. But the more people who are awake to what's going on when you receive a notification or emergency alert to evacuate and you hang it out, then you can't get mad at me. I've been through hurricanes. We've evacuated on a few. Some we didn't. I've been through them. So when it's something that's native to your area, and then you have other people who know nothing about it trying to comment on it, but especially when it's native and there's a special operation, it's kind of like me. I don't try to talk about anything up north. I don't live up north, haven't lived up north. I've lived out west. But even then, even when I've lived out west, I don't try to act like I know everything about pummeling and shoveling snow and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So stay in your lane. You might just learn something. Because when you go over here and you heard that, they only gave $750 out, well, that was supposed to tick people off on purpose. Because when you look into special operations over here on the diagram, what's it say? Sabotage and terror to demonstrate weakness of government. Boy, did that ever happen. Because people got mad, people got angry, people got frustrated, people were trying to go out there and militias trying to take on FEMA and all this stuff. That's not what you want to do, ladies and gentlemen. Because if you knew what was going on, you might not get arrested. See, those people that got arrested, sucks to suck. Guess what? You could have known and you should have known. But now those people that got arrested, the people, when they get out, people can still call them a hero if they want to, but they're a zero to me. Because they could have known what was going on the whole time. You can know what's going on by just observing, going, man, 45-47 means 45 through 47, 45, 46, 47. It's not a comma, and it's not a little and symbol. And if it was, I wouldn't have a platform. Plain and simple. See, my documents were written 2017 to 2021. I was already telling people that President Trump is a wartime president. He never left. Everybody knows me. From 2021, 2022, 2023. Everybody that knows me says what? What have I been saying? He never left. He never left. He is 46. He never left. He's a wartime president. It's a different role, different duty, different obligation. He never left. So if you'll do your math, what I've been saying before, and then this came out April 2023. That was every validity and validation, solace, and everything else that if anybody had been following me up to that point and they thought, I don't know about this guy. I don't know. Even though it's all laws and orders, but even if people still were like, I don't know, that was my validation. And then getting pictures with him was also validity. He can't share what I'm saying because it is the whole plan, even though it's public. But he has a role to play with all the people who wouldn't believe it, because there will be a revelation to it. And because it's so much material and so much information, he couldn't just share one thing without sharing everything and sharing it all and unveiling everything. But it's an operation. So that dash means it's still ongoing. Now, it ain't going to end at January the 20th, 2028 as far as it's going to just cut off and it's going to be an operation until then. But you still got to look at it that way for right now because that's a parameter. That's a playground. It's a defined operation. All right? So the storm. FEMA told to stand down by Title 10. Title 10 is the president. Also, just last week, South Dakota sent National Guard to California. Title 10. The only person who has federalized the reserve components of active duty is Donald John Trump. Executive Order 13912 and 13919, and then vote Title 10, Sections 12302 and 12304. And once again, remember the jab. Remember the jab. If people just still want to go, well, Joe Biden. All right, well, Joe Biden relinquished his authority in executive documents of Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550, which is your War Powers Act. Why would he give up his authority? And who did he give it up to? Secretary of Defense and the President of 1550, which is Donald John Trump. So either way you want to go with it, you're in the corner. You have to acknowledge that this guy's a wartime president. However way you want to slice the pie, it's a good pie. And you're going to eat it. You're going to eat it peacefully or I'm going to shove it down your throat. That's the only time it's constitutional to shove something down your throat. Is if you don't like the pie, sorry. That's how the military rolls. That is what that means. Now, as I close with the bigger nugget, this is the big boy. And I've been doing this one. And what's funny to me is no podcaster out there that claims to be awake, and the ones that want to come at me and say, I knew this before you, all this other, sissy stuff, which is whatever. I'm like, if you knew this before me, if this was about a war here in the podcast world, if you knew this before me, you'd have blown up to 800,000 followers, and you'd have been on all these TV shows, and you'd have been going around meeting with President Trump, etc., had you known. So if you want to play the titty game, all right, for the people, then we can do that. But if you would have known the whole time, it would have been you doing this. But you didn't. And see, this is why it matters to you, the people. This is why it matters. I didn't seek this out. God put me here. But this is why it matters. When you don't know it on the front and you just regurgitate something, then if you regurgitate and you don't give credit, let's just say that the FBI gets cleaned out, the CIA gets cleaned out, which they are. Let's just say that these people get recruited to a position and not me. But they can't think on the front, but they are a real regurgitator. Then we end up with people who either fake it till they make it. Of course, most people would catch on to that, but let's just say they didn't for a while, and they try to fake it till they make it. Then what happens? We end up with a swamp again. We end up with incompetent people who can't tote the weight with what the weight requires. Substance, quality, etc. Intelligence. That's why it matters. And I know a lot of good people, and I have a guy who watches me all the time. He's a buddy of mine, first off. I have 2 or 3 buddies that watch. They are way more qualified than even me. And I would be the first to say, hey, I got a buddy who is this. I got a buddy here. I got a few of them. I would be the first. If someone came to me and said, hey, you want a spot? I'd say, hey, I got a few buddies. That's what kind of person I am. It matters. It ain't about me, but if it's going to go that way, if people want to play that little sword game, that little ham candle sword game, okay, let's do it. But you, the people, need to, that's your discernment. That's how you know when people say, I don't know who to listen to. This guy says this, and this guy. You got to use discernment. The only thing that matters right now is that dash. That's the only thing. That's God. That's the military. That's Donald John Trump. That's the world leaders. That's your leaders. That's your generals. That's all the ones that are putting that on. And you got to find the ones who are toting that the right way. And are tough when they need to be tough. Funny when you need to be. But serious. And doing it for the right reasons. And I just got a text from one of my buddies I'm talking about. Because it's true. It's really true. And I'd be the first guy, hey, I know some people that. And I hope that happens because we got a lot of great people who do listen, who I've met along the way, who are very qualified. Very, very qualified for everything. And they're also good people. Got good hearts. They have integrity. Everything. So here's the big nugget. The big one. A couple weeks ago, I was sitting at 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep. And I was looking on Google. I typed in like 7 different words with 7 different commas and a .gov and a .mil. And I just kept searching. And I went over to like page 5 of Google search, which means it's not been searched, not heavily searched. Those of you who understand search engine optimization. All right, hadn't been heavily searched. And I found this SupremeCourt.gov doc, right? And then this dude went viral, or maybe it already been viral, but whatever. He went viral on a directive. There's a new directive that was put out by the Department of Defense. It's 5240.01. All right, it's about military intelligence agencies. All right, military intelligence and intelligence activities, just as a whole. Well, this person butchered it. This person said that Joe Biden, first off, anything Joe Biden president, once again, means they don't know what they're talking about, unfortunately. All right. But said that Joe Biden weaponized the military against the people. See, that's someone who does not know anything about this dash whatsoever. Because there's a bunch of Department of Defense directives in the first place. There's pages of the directives. Pages. All right. And I'm going to have to put my phone on charge here before it dies real quick. One of them. Because I don't want it to die for the people. All right. We're going to do it like that this time. And so, this guy butchered it. Well, it's like there's so much to it. It's amazing. So, Executive Order 12333 was put into place by Ronald Reagan. All right. But it also paired with Executive Order 11905 by Gerald Ford. Both of them were shot at. Most people watching weren't born. I wasn't even born. But Reagan and Ford have these two executive orders, and they pair with each other. One of them says what the three-letter agencies cannot do. The other one says what they're supposed to do. And it lists all the three-letter agencies, which is very important. All right, and one of them actually lists, and I've read a few and I'll read a few, what they cannot do. So, like, here's one. It says, this is 11905, so this is forward. It says physical surveillance. They can't do that unless it's authorized by, like, an attorney general, etc. It says, let's see here, where's the other one? Well, electronic surveillance, unconsented physical searches within the United States, opening of mail or examination of envelopes of mail in United States postal channels, examination of federal tax returns and tax information, infiltration or undisclosed participation within the United States in any organization for the purpose of reporting on or influencing its activities or members. I mean, listen to what that says. And then think about President Trump and what you witnessed with him. Now, me and my buddies and people know that it's an operation. But for the people who don't, think about what everybody's witnessed. Remember Russia collusion in 2017? President Trump started hammering the three-letter agencies. He said it's not the organizations itself. It's not all of the people in these organizations. It's the senior level leadership. A couple weeks ago in Wisconsin, he said that again. He said it's the higher echelon of the three-letter agencies. He's circling back around again. That's what he's doing. All right. Well, what did you witness in 2017? He hammered the three-letter agencies, and he said that. But he's Russia collusion, Russia. Remember the dossier, the fake dossier, Hillary and all this stuff? It all ties in. He said they spied on my campaign. They put cameras. They put audio taps on Trump Tower. Do you not remember that? So there's that. Then you look at Jack Smith. What did he just say about Jack Smith yesterday when he landed? He said he's deranged. He's a lunatic. He's all this other stuff. Jack Smith also has a case filed against President Trump for tax returns. What does this executive order say? What did it just say? Can't do anything with tax returns or any kind of returns, federal or tax returns. Also, they try to impeach him over a perfectly good phone call with the Ukraine president that he released the tapes to. Everybody could hear it. He released it. He didn't have anything to hide. He released it to the whole world. So what is that doing? That's also exonerating Richard Nixon. Because a lot of people don't know, a lot of people don't remember, but a lot of people weren't even born. Richard Nixon, Watergate, in Sweet Home, Alabama. Watergate don't mean a dang thing to me. Does your conscience bother you? I'll tell the truth. Watergate, Richard Nixon was impeached over a phone call. All this ties in. It exonerates a lot of people because all the presidents, not all presidents, were bad people. Congress, when they put term limits on the president in 51, and then when Congress changed the War Powers Act in 73, they put more constraints on the president and they took more control. A lot of congressmen and women are the ones who did this through the years. And it wasn't, let's just be honest, it wasn't a lot of women because they didn't allow a lot of women in those roles until later years, right? So let's just be honest here. So this one says what they can't do. Executive Order 12333 says what they're supposed to do. The 3-letter agencies. And it's a long order. It's about, 16 pages. Yeah. 16 pages is 12333. Now, that directive that this guy butchered and misled all these hundreds of thousands of people on TikTok and everywhere else it's been shared, this one directive out of all the directives, out of all the laws and orders I talk about that President Trump has invoked and put into place, this one person, this is why it matters, and it matters even more to those of us that are veterans but also know what's going on and have worked in these fields, because it matters. Because this whole operation is to drain that, once again, to drain that mentality, to get that out. That person is, if they're not, they're still displaying the characteristics of the swamp. And if they're not really a bad person and they're not really evil, if they're just incompetent, that shows the people sharing it are just as incompetent and haven't either heard what's going on or still refuse to get with the program. And that's dangerous. So in that directive, in letter C, it says 2.6 of Executive Order 12333. So that directive that this guy butchered is connected to Executive Order 12333, which is Ronald Reagan's, that talks about assassinations and intelligence agencies. Then you go over here to President Trump. It was so funny in another way because, like I said, I didn't do this for numbers and how many people that would follow. I don't ever look at that. It fluctuates. People will jump ship and they'll come running back because it just keeps being proved out. My validation came right there. It came on April 2023. If there was ever about it being about me or me and my buddies and any whatever it is, that's when it came. So I've been validated a long time. So people jumping ship are jumping ship because for whatever reason. Because it's already been validated. Everything I talk about, there's your validity. So in this document, so President Trump, well, no, I'll do it the other way. So on July 13th, the whole world saw, quote unquote, an assassination. It made people mad, angry, bitter, upset, frustrated, scared, all these other things. But me, I texted a buddy, a veteran, and I said, hey, get the posse together. Let's do a show ASAP tomorrow. And he did. He got everybody on there. So the guys who forwarded this book, that's a #1 bestseller, once again, on Amazon and self-published. Full Bird Colonel retired, Special Operations, Delta Force, former Deputy Commander of Delta Force, Full Bird Colonel, Army Operations, so Special Operations, retired, and Lieutenant Colonel, Special Operations, from the Australian Forces. They forwarded this book and wrote key pieces in the back. So Colonel Charles Sellers and also Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Bosi. But we had multiple people in there that day. Major, a former major, West Point graduate, Special Operations. We had Chief Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL, Chief Michael Jaco, SEAL Team 6. All right. Then we had another guy that we can't say who he is and what he does, but if we could, he can say his name. But if we could tell what he does, currently, more people will be like, you should already be there. But what he does, he can show his face and he can talk on the surface, but he can't go into great detail. But when he can, he's going to bring the curtain down. All right, and there's a few others on there. A.J. Roberts, veteran. His grandpa was the second person on the beaches when they stormed the beaches in World War II. Second boot on the ground. There's a lot of people that you could just go, wow. But what happens? You'll have 5 or 10 experts. What do people do? Oh, I want 20. You get 20, they want 30. You get 30, they want 40. That's what Americans do. That's got to stop. You only need one that shows you the laws and orders and to back it up, the proof, the receipts as they call it. You only need one. It's up to you to go read the receipts and process the receipts. So July 14th, we did this show, and we showed that the angles didn't make sense. A little pipsqueak who looked like he had his first pimple, and they told you it's a basic AR-15 with no scope. No, it's just open sight, iron sight, right? At 166 yards, open. Blood don't flow this way, first off. All right, when he's on the ground, he has no blood on his hands. Where did the blood go? All right. I mean, we have proven this every way to Tulsa and back just on the surface. Also, the ball cap was visual. If the president's being shot at, ain't nothing, anything that falls or flies or whatever, why did Secret Service have this ball cap in her hand the whole time? Because of what's on the side of it? There were so many things you got to go look at my pages breaking it down. But you go to Special Operations, Pocket Guide. Go to that diagram. I'm telling you, this diagram is going to change your life. Go to the diagram. Now, 2 things. President Trump put in a court case on March the 19th, 2024. And it specifically talks about, and I thought I had it pulled up, but let me pull it up really fast. Here, I got it right here. Specifically talks about military law and assassinations. Now, once again, you heard me earlier rattling about Alabama hillbilly math. It's not Common Core math. It's real simple math. Let's do some simple math again. March the 19th, 2024. March, April, May, June, July. That's 4 months before all the people either jumped ship or got mad at us for saying it was fake and a part of an operation. Or if you did know and you were on board, then you already know. But for your friends and family, you're still arguing with, trying to pull their hair out, which is understandable. 4 months before, this court case, number 23-939, Donald J. Trump petitioner versus the United States. Respondent. Brief for 3 former senior military officers and executive branch officials of amici curiae supporting petitioner. Amici curiae, ladies and gentlemen, is a Latin word for friends of the court. Now, sometimes the court don't like when you have different opinions by people who aren't a part of their little system, but they allowed it. There's 3 former senior military officers and executive branch officials as amici curiae supporting the petitioner, so supporting President Trump. Wait till you know who they are. All right? So, here's the title of this whole thing. The president's broad power as commander-in-chief does not include the authority to order the military to commit murder. 2, military law and executive order forbid murder and assassination. Letter A under that, military is a crime under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Title 10. Letter B, an executive order bars assassination. Executive Order 12333. Military officers are not required to carry out unlawful orders. And number 4, the military will not carry out an order to commit murder. Now, let's look at the very first paragraph of this thing. Introduction and interests of amici curiae. So, friends of the court. The first question is this is the very first thing in this whole Supreme Court document. 18 pages long. Could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Now, the last time SEAL Team 6 was involved in anything with the president was Osama bin Laden, 2011. Guess who else was murdered that year? Gaddafi from Libya. So there's Hillary. Remember Hillary in the court? What does it matter? They're gone. Remember that? You want to know why that sinks home with me even more so? Is because my unit was the Stinger missiles in the Army. Hillary and Obama and the Obama administration sold the Stinger missiles to these incompetent idiots of Libya. You cannot run a rescue mission with a helicopter with a Stinger missile present. You don't even have to be good with the Stinger missile because it will lock on any aircraft if you just get it in the vicinity of that aircraft. And the greatest pilots in the world cannot outrun the Stinger missile. That's why we can't use it. We can't practice with real aircraft, especially anywhere from $50, $85 million aircraft to $120 million. We can't do that. I mean, common sense. That's the last time SEAL Team 6 was involved in anything, was Osama bin Laden. Who was the president? And I just did a show, and you can find it on Rumble, with Mike Jaco, former chief, Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6, who was the team that found Osama bin Laden. Now that exonerates them because they were, it's not saying that they carried out an order on their own. So that's why you got to watch what that question is. It says right up there, number 4. The military will not carry out an order to commit murder, and military officers are not required to carry out unlawful orders. They're not required to. So were they held a gun on them? Who knows? I mean, only they know. And they'll have to, obviously, there'll be a day in court for this. Now listen to this. It says, could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? That question was posed by a member of the panel at oral argument in the court below. Amici curiae, friends of the court, who have served as military combat generals and senior officials at the Pentagon and have held other senior executive branch positions, submit that the answer to the panel member's question is a resounding no. Man, military combat generals and senior officials at the Pentagon and others who have held executive branch positions. Executive branch is your president, vice president, cabinet. Submit that the answer is a resounding no. Guess what executive order this court case references? Executive Order 12333. That this idiot out there, whoever this person was that butchered this directive, and anybody else who follows suit with that and tries to regurgitate that, that's why you have to get with it. President Trump put this court case in. He filed this 4 months before July 13th and 6 months before September the 16th, the golf course incident. He filed this. It specifically talks about assassinations in this Supreme Court.gov. This Supreme Court doc. 23-939. Then to tie it all in, one, you got Reagan, Executive Order 12333. To tie it in, there's a West Point article. It's called Assassination in the Law of War. It was put out October the 15th, 2021, so just over 3 years ago. All right. It's a westpoint.edu, which is the Army's college, right? Well, this is it's amazing. Now watch this. This also shows you how the special operations, when I get to it, it's going to show you how it flipped all the liberals. They look like hypocrites. Ooh, do they look terrible. Now watch this. His memo, published in the Army Lawyer, became a classic in the field in part because of its timing. In just over a year, the United States will be at war with Iraq, a conflict during which the issue of assassination occupied center stage. Once the war began in January 1991, the United States launched over 250 missions against sites where Saddam Hussein was believed to be hiding. Watch this. Yet when Air Force Chief of Staff General Michael Dugan had suggested in September 1990 that because Saddam is a one-man show, quote, end quote, in Iraq, quotes, he ought to be at the focus of our efforts, end quote, Secretary of Defense Dick Cheney promptly fired him. Now, who just bragged on the quote-unquote debate that they had endorsements by 200 former Bush aides, McCain, Romney, and an endorsement by Dick Cheney? Now listen to those dates again. This general suggested in September 1990 that because Saddam is a one-man show in Iraq, the focus should be on him. But it says the war began in January 1991. So September, let's do our math again. September, October, November, December, January. So 4 months after this general was fired, the war began. Now watch this. September 1991, so that was a year after this general was fired. September 1991, George Bush Sr. had a speech where he talked about a new world order. Then, September, and that was, guess what date that was? September the 11th, 1991. You can go look at it. 10 years to the day. But the day before, the then Secretary of Defense, Donald Rumsfeld, stood at the World TV, World Front, and said, what, $2.3 trillion is missing from the Pentagon. What happened the very next day? So if Saddam Hussein was a dictator that this evil swamp and all these warmongers said he was, why did this general get fired in 1990 for saying to focus their efforts on him then, launched 250 missions in January 1991, 250 missions. Guess how long Saddam lived after that? That was January 1991 with 250 missions. Don't sound like they were looking for Saddam too well because we had him in our sights. That is a fact. We know that for fact that they had them, knew where he was, did not get him. He lived from 1991 to 2006. What happened in between that again? September the 11th. They pinned that on him. They also pinned Osama bin Laden. They also pinned Gaddafi. Gaddafi wanted a gold standard back, by the way. What does President Trump say all the time? These people are sick. He means like scum of the earth. Sick. You do your math. And there's the same Dick Cheney that Kamala's bragging about. So for the people that think she's real, look at what they're supporting. I mean, boy, did this ever flip. I mean, the special operation flipped it. It's flipped these people. They are truly, and if they're good people and don't realize what they're supporting, they need to see this video. So now let's go back to this Supreme Court. It ties in assassinations, 12333, to the directive that was just updated September 27, 2024, for the intelligence agencies, activities, etc. Has nothing to do with weaponizing anything. That's false. False. They don't even talk about that. So now, let's go over to the unconventional warfare pocket guide. Very bottom of the diagram, assassination, comma, forming favorable public opinion, parentheses, advocating national cause, close parentheses, comma, creation of distrust of established institutions. So, remember July the 14th when me and veterans, special operations, gets on and tells you, one, the angles don't make sense, the operational security, the sniper dropped his weapon right before the shots were fired, snipers don't do that. There's so many things you can just pick apart that this was all a plot for a good reason. It's a good plot. It does not take away from this man at all. It actually adds to it in a beautiful way. So you do all of that. Then the same people who were jumping shit with me were the same people, a lot of them, not all of them. But December the 2nd, 2022, I got a picture with President Trump. It's still on my Instagram to this day. And every now and then a troll will come through there, or some idiot, low IQ individual, and they'll say, that's not Donald Trump, that's a body double. Well, thank you, Penelope. Thank you. Thank you, Pippi Longstocking. Thank you for riding along and proving a point. But guess what? Because if you're saying that's a double, then you're acknowledging there's two President Trumps. And when you acknowledge there's two President Trumps, guess what that means? That means common sense says, now why would they put the real President Trump out at a public rally, operational security? He brings his grandkids on the stage, so if it's, I mean, come on, people, do your math. Come on. Why would they put the real guy at a rally and real people at a rally when snipers, a good sniper, if someone wanted to take out anybody, operational security can only set so many parameters, so many distances. All right? So let's just flip it the fun way. If someone came to me and said, hey, Derek, would you like to be a stuntman, a body double? Guess what, Derek? All you got to do is wear this suit, and you get to play golf all day, and you get to eat Mary Trump's meatloaf all day, and you just get to live the life, bro. All you got to do is blend in with all his golf members, and all you got to do is just play the part, look the part. We're going to put this little vocal box on you, and by the time it goes through, it'll sound just like President Trump. That's all you get to do, baby. You ain't got to get shot. Come on, people. That's what you're saying. That's what you're saying when you say the guy at the rallies is the real guy, and the guy at the golf course that I took a picture with is the body double. That's exactly what you're saying. So you're saying that the guy who's the stunt man actually gets to play golf all day, and gets to ride in the golf cart all day, and gets to eat fine meals all day, and to chill out at Mar-a-Lago all day, or Bedminster, or wherever. Boy. So when you flip that, and you go, hey, special operations, now you take the directive that this idiot out there butchered, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 3 in it. Now you go and know that President Trump put in a Supreme Court case 4 months before July 13th and 6 months before September 16th that has assassinations in it, military law in it, which is Title 10, and then also Executive Order 12333, which the three-letter agencies says what they're supposed to do. That ties in with 11905, Gerald Ford's order that says what they're not supposed to do. And you tie all that in. Now come the special operations. Assassination, forming favorable public opinion. Did people get mad, pissed, angry, bitter? Oh my God, this can't happen? Checkmate. Did it advocate a national cause? Checkmate. Did it create a distrust of established institutions with people? Checkmate. Because what happened that week? They had the director of the Secret Service in under questions with the Congress, and everybody everywhere, all your surface level propaganda people were sharing that video of her being hammered. Did it not create a distrust with the Secret Service with people? Checkmate. And then what did President Trump start doing in his speeches? Saying, hey, they made a few mistakes, but don't knock the Secret Service. Checkmate. Did people not start having a distaste with the FBI? Checkmate. Did it not fulfill what this special operations says? Assassination, forming favorable public opinion, advocating national cause, creation of distrust of established institutions. This is why you gotta know the military. This is why you can't support the military if you don't know military laws, military orders, regulations, customs, and then also operations. Clandestine operations, covert operations, guerrilla warfare, unconventional warfare, regular warfare. It all ties in. Irregular warfare, that one little word in Title 50, Clause 1550, put in by President Donald John Trump and the Congress. Irregular warfare ties into unconventional warfare. It ties it all in. It is all connected. The other thing that she said during that interview, remember the interviewer? And they were talking, and we shared it. It's all validity, continuity of operations, continuity of government. Said that, yes, in a normal situation, but we're in continuity of government. They tell you without telling you, they tell you. But you got to know this stuff to hear the nuggets. So the director that was under fire, the Secret Service, told you it's the continuity of government. So they tell you, and it's all validity. So those of you that know, it was all validation for you, and you're like, oh yeah, let's move on to the next nugget because it's all validity. But for people out there that didn't know this should be like, ooh, it should be like that. Whatever that is for you, or if it's Megadeth and it's like, if it's that, like whatever like gets you in your zone where you're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Whatever that is, then do that. Because that's what it is. Alright? So, it's all right there. And then to put the nugget on top of everything is who's involved with it. Now let's read that again. Now that's what's awesome. Those three amici curiae, guess who they are? Amici Secretary Robert Wilkie served in the Pentagon as Assistant Secretary of Defense under President George W. Bush. Then Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, the third highest ranking position in the Pentagon under President Donald John Trump. He served in the United States Navy and United States Air Force Reserves, attaining the rank of Colonel. He is currently a Distinguished Fellow for an American Security at the America First Policy Institute. I'm going to save this other one for last. Amici retired Lieutenant General William Gerald Jerry Boykin had a distinguished combat career that included the attempted rescue of Americans in the Iranian hostage crisis under President Jimmy Carter. As Colonel, he was commander of the Army's elite Delta Force and commanded all Green Berets and the JFK Special Warfare Center, which trains the Green Berets. Guess who forwarded this book? retired colonel, former deputy commander of Delta Force. And here's the commander of Delta Force. And then the best one of all, right here. I saved him for last, even though he's listed second. Amakai retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg is a Vietnam veteran who was the commander of the 82nd Airborne Division and served as commander of Special Operations Command Europe. He later served in the Trump administration as Executive Secretary and Chief of Staff of the National Security Council and White House and National Security Advisor to the Vice President and Acting National Security Advisor to the President. He is currently co-chair of the Center for American Security at the America First Policy Institute. Guess who President Trump just had at a rally in North Carolina about a month ago? And he said, I want to give a shout out to someone who's been with me before all of this. Keith Kellogg. Guess who has a book called War by Other Means, where he hammers this guy that was relieved of duty by Obama, a general, Keith Kellogg. Guess who wrote the 2017 National Security Strategy for President Trump's first year in office? Keith Kellogg. Guess who wrote the America First Strategy, which they're calling the new National Security Strategy, that the media said, this is just in case President Trump wins, he can get a head start on everything. Keith Kellogg. Guess who President Trump speaks at their events of the America First policy? Keith Kellogg. And it gets better. Oh, just wait. Watch this. No, it gets better. I'll just pause just for the fun of it. Just because it's got to sink in all the Keith Kellogg's. So if you go right now, and I've got videos you can look at. If you went to the state.gov, you go over and look at all those different .gov sites, where they're supposed to be. But if you went over right now to defense.gov, which is the Department of Defense, if you went over to defense.gov and you went and found the national security strategies, guess what the last national security strategy is on defense.gov? 2017, Keith Kellogg. If you went to Google and you typed in 2022 National Security Strategy, Biden, it'll pull up, but guess where it is? It's on whitehouse.gov. That's not where they're housed, ladies and gentlemen, because the National Security Strategy, as it says, is a defense. It's a Department of Defense thing. And I'm pretty sure we've already lived through 2022 and 2020. So that should be posted on the defense.gov. It should have been posted even in 2022. It has nothing to do with even in the past. It should be posted on defense.gov. It's not there. The last one is 2017, Keith Kellogg. And there's Keith Kellogg as one of the three amici curiae of the Supreme Court doc, which ties in to, once again, Executive Order 12333, Assassinations, Military Law, Title 10. I mean, you can really dance any dance you want to dance, but there's no better dance than the Trump dance. And then, the last White House military office.gov is Obama's. Ladies and gentlemen, the White House military office is like your Marine Corps when you see a president go anywhere, and where they've showed Biden, every time they've ever shown Biden, every uniform is jacked up around him. They got Marine Corps wearing aviator flight suits with a multicam, digital cam, PC patrol cap. No, not the Marine Corps with the president. They're supposed to be in those sharp, beautiful uniforms you see. They're not. They're not. And the few times they show him on the lawn of the white, they'll show a few, but they're not. You can tell they're not real Marine Corps. All right. So the last White House military office.gov is Obama's. And I've told people that President Trump has never been a president by constitutional standards. He's been a wartime president by constitutional standards. If you go over to YouTube and you look up the United States Marine Corps band, comma, president's own, you're going to need a laptop for it. For whatever reason, it won't let you do it on the phone. But if you will scroll all the way down, it don't say the year number. It'll say 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. 10, it'll do like that. There's no video evidence of the Marine Corps playing for inaugurations. Why? And they only posted up to 12 years ago. So, prime example. And it's the official page. All right, so WhiteHouseMilitaryOffice.gov. There should be a White House military archived office for President Trump. There is not. If he was a president by constitutional standards, he should have a White House military office.gov archive. The only archive you find is Obama's. Now that's military and that's deep for the people that's just now hearing this, but that's a fact. That is an absolute fact. All right. If you go over to Wikipedia, which is even funnier, but I have it screenshot and saved and archived. But I have it from 2022 and 2023 and this year. But whoever's running it, which has to be a government doing it, whoever's doing it. But when you scroll down to the bottom now, and it says Garrett Hoffman is the director, and you can't click on the name. But when you Google Garrett Hoffman, guess who that is? That's the name of Rain Man in the movie Rain Man. That was Dustin Hoffman, right? Character in Rain Man. Fart. Raymond, did you fart? You know that. So it's Tom Cruise's brother in the movie Rain Man. So that's who Garrett Hoffman is, right? Now, whoever's running that, put that name in there, and you can't change it because if you went in there and do what. You know, you can edit certain Wikipedia pages. If you edit it, it changes it right back. So whoever's doing it, it is the funniest crap ever. They're trolling the people. This is so awesome. It's such an awesome operation. But the White House Military Office.gov, there's not one. Hasn't been one in a lot since, what is it? January 2022 or something like that is what they showed. But, all right, so the last government publishing office director that was appointed by President Trump. The Federal Continuity Directive 1 that was reissued January 17, 2017, which is your continuity of operations, continuity of government. The last government publishing office, that's who put that out, the first one. The rest were FEMA, but still, they all coordinate together. The last GPO was President Trump appointee. All right. Then your state.gov, let's see, you have state.gov. Oh, so your National Security Council. So that thing that Kamala and Joe say, oh, Donald Trump is a threat to national security and all this. So the National Security Council, they're on a U.S. government manual.gov page. All right. When you go to it, it still has General Milley listed. But when you click on General Milley's link, URL, it takes you over to Charles Brown. That website has not been updated since March 2021. All right. So then your state.gov, which is the prettiest one. I use it the best for last. But state.gov, if you go over to it, it says the last president to travel abroad was Donald Trump. The last Secretary of State to travel abroad, Mike Pompeo. And then it says the last foreign leaders. It lists, like, you can click on foreign leaders of 2019, 2018, and it lists all the foreign leaders that have been to the United States. The last foreign leader tab is 2020. All right. Then you can click on a certain portion of the site and it goes over and it says currently suspended. And it hasn't been updated since December the 21st, 2020. That's the last date of anything on there that's been updated. I mean, it's that humorous. So, they show you without showing you. And then Biden's schedule is on a .com. It's on rollcall.com. And they don't update it until Monday. So like this weekend, they said he was in Germany. Well, they didn't update the schedule until Monday of all the fill-in, and they still got something. They always get something wrong on purpose. And it's so funny. It's on a .com. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not how it works. That's just not how the presidency works. It's not how... You're watching the most biblical, monumental, historical, special operation, military known to man. Because there were real parts of this, absolutely, clean out of the trafficking, child trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking. That's real. The other part of it is just humorous and all theater. It's all theater. So you can learn to have dark humor in another manner and know that, look, if we all lived, if you're 41 like me and you live to be 91, you're going to live through it. So, you find the positives out of life and you roll with it. And, that's how it rolls. And that's how it goes. But as far as where it's frustrating for me is the fact that, I didn't get to serve as long as I wanted to. And I'll get to tell that story one day when it's appropriate. But right now, I know where God called me to be. And I'm getting to serve beyond my service. I'm getting to keep my oath. And we have too many people who need to stand down, post regular stuff on your Instagram. You don't need to be because you're misleading people. You're misleading people. That dash is ever so important. And if you want to honor this man and his family, it's not secret information. It's all public information. Everything I talk about is all public. That's why the dash is public. I mean, you can know if you want to know. But when we got people trying to tote the news and tote the weight and they butcher it and they're misleading people and their emotions, and we have people commit suicide now. There are people who commit suicide over this stuff. There are people who have been scammed by these idiot podcasters, and they've committed suicide due to that. And I know some, I've received phone calls and emails from people where this has happened. That's why it's serious, and that's why I get mad like I do, because we're losing people because of dumb people who claim to be something but have no idea. That is public information. It's public visual, and it's also got a blueprint to it. And I wouldn't have a platform if it wasn't. Because when you do your math, once again, when you do the math on that, April 2023 is when that came out. So he's either most cocky, egotistical SOB on the planet, and liberals think he is. But if he was, and this was not a special operation, the left-wing media would annihilate him on that dash. The left-wing media will be losing their marbles over that dash. So, once again, you do your math. I already showed how President Trump never left office with my documents from 2021, 2022, 2023, up to that date. So that dash is validity. I wouldn't be where I am for that reason, and also all the women. Ladies, y'all know it. It's okay. I've already made this joke. It's real. It's just a fact. Women love to prove guys wrong. They love proving men wrong, males wrong. Women love it. When a guy says that's a fact, go read it. Women go, all right, hot shot, I'm going to do that. And it's just like forensic files or anything else. It requires pieces of the puzzle, and it requires putting it all together. And I wouldn't have a platform with as many people that follow if I was wrong. Because women, ladies, patriot women, conservative women, but awesome, strong women, patriot women, have all done the reading. They've done the research. It's there. And guys, it's not a competition in the bad way. But women are kicking your butts right now. The women, the ladies are the actual Paul Revere's. They're the actual Revolutionary War. If there was going to be a Revolutionary War veteran, but a Revolutionary War hero right now, the ladies are whooping y'all's butts bad. And that's okay. Ladies, I mean, but I was just saying, but guys out there, because your testosterone gets in the way sometimes your hard head and your jealousy and all your other stuff gets in the way, your negative attitudes get in the way. If you wanted to make this a fun competition, the ladies are whooping your butts bad. And it's not a competition, but if there's going to be a friendly one, you guys are dragging butt. And I think it's awesome that the ladies are whooping butt right now, because a lot of women are doing it the right way, and that's the way it should be. So, you know. And kudos to you guys. But all the guys out there that are, hey, you know, just par for the course in another manner. But it's all there. It's all there. But the podcasters, y'all gotta light these people up and say, hey, and then watch the ones that regurgitate for the wrong reasons. If they don't put credit where it's due, they need to do that too. Because this is an operation. And we need people who recognize that. And they need to put credit where it's due, but they also need to realize that, hey, these people out there still if you see anything with Joe Biden, like, oh, Joe said this or Kamala said, you go, no, they didn't say anything. You're lost. You don't know what's going on. You don't know about the dash, and you claim to support President Trump. You don't know anything about the dash? Unfollow them. Because the way social media works, especially Instagram, the more people comment, the more visual it is to people. Same thing with Facebook. The more people who like and love something or comment on it, it becomes more visual on timelines of people. That's how that stuff works. It's all coded. It's on a algorithm. So a lot of you are commenting on stuff, even if it's dumb. Don't comment on the comment box, message them. They don't work that way with messaging. Message them and say, hey, you're misleading people. Don't comment in the comment box. Don't, even if it's the dumbest thing you've ever seen and you want to just, don't. That's what makes it more visual for people, is when you like or love or comment in the comment box. If it's something you love, then yes, like or love it and comment, because that's what makes it visual. But some people are getting blown up because people are getting in the comment box, and some of these people are just dumb and don't care. So they're like, there could be 99 million negative comments and one single good comment, and they're like, well, it blew me up, and it gives them the chance to get into more eyes of people who might make it split. So you gotta know how internet works today. That's why it does matter. And President Trump talks all the time about Section 230 and a digital Bill of Rights. We got to get control of this. We have too many Indians right now, and we only need a few chiefs and maybe one bull. So, anyway, I talked longer than what I thought I would, but I just wanted to come on and go live, and I'm like, man, I went live, and anyway, I love people. I just got back from South Dakota last week. It's hard to believe. It's almost been a week since I've been back, but I went to South Dakota. I spoke at 2 different places, and I love people. And I love, what's going on right now with people and the people who are awake and all my friends and different people on here. And I see all the same comments and different people that I know or either don't know, but I see you following. But we do have a role to play moving forward. And we have to straighten this out. We have to get this right. And we have to honor the men and women who have fallen. We have to honor the men and women who have been put in this position to do this. And we have to pick up these pieces and move forward. Just because you know that this is an operation don't mean you slack up. We have to move forward and make sure this never happens again. Oh, Lord, do we not want this to happen again? Not like this, we don't. So, I'm working on part 2 of this. It will be done here in the next couple weeks because I want it to be ready after November. But it will be, So I do have part 2, and I think we're going to do a total separate book for it because I don't want it to be confusing to people. So it will be just, I guess, Midnight Rider rides again with a number 2 right there. But still, it's a lot more beefed up. Got a lot more veterans that's going to come in on it. And if you're a veteran out there, be sure to email me your story, and when you woke up, when you realized what was going on with that, you can tell what you want to tell about who you are, your rank, whatever you want to tell, just whatever you want to tell, and we will get all that added into the book as a highlight. All right, so anyway, it's 12:34. What better number to end on than 12:34? So y'all have a good night. Be sure to look at my link tree, linktr.ee/1776nation. It goes to all of my official pages. If I start another page, you will know about it. So this is my official Instagram that I'm on. Derek Jonhson Country. No underscores, no periods, no numbers. Just Derek Jonhson Country, lowercase. There's a ton of fake pages out there. Even Telegram has a fake page that has like 70-something thousand followers on it. And I'm like, wow. So, anyways.